Chapter 13. After Shi Qianshan said those words, he pretended to be proud and aloof in order to attract Wu Qianqian's attention. Wu Qianqian glared at him fiercely. Is this guy sick in the head? Seeing that this matter could be temporarily brushed aside like this, he actually said such decisive words. Li Jian, is he easy to provoke? Not to mention Li Jian still has a father. His father is my second martial uncle. The second most powerful person in Beyond the Heavens sect besides the Elder Pavilion. Your master, martial uncle Meng, is only the 10th. Hearing Shi Qianshan's words, Li Jian's bloodied and broken face revealed a sinister smile. Shi Qianshan, did you say that? Nonsense. Shi Qianshan said righteously. Chu Yang is my junior martial brother. No matter who you are, if you want to cause trouble for my junior martial brother, you have to go through me first. Chu Yang said in his heart. Well said. Shi Qianshan, you are too talented. But he said emotionally, eldest martial brother, I have caused trouble for you. This is called killing the end of the sentence, leaving no future trouble. Yes. Shi Qianshan waved his hand and said proudly, Junior martial brother Chu, what are you saying? Between us martial brothers, what trouble is there to talk about? Unexpectedly, he pretended to be unhappy as if Chu Yang did not want him to deal with this trouble. It meant that he was looking down on him. At the side, Tan Tan naturally did not know that Chu Yang was playing tricks. He was so moved that he almost cried. Choking with a thick nasal voice, he said, Eldest martial brother. You are so good, Tan Tan, you are the same. You are also my junior martial brother. If you have any trouble, I will naturally not shirk my duty. Shi Qianshan said affectionately, as your eldest martial brother, I naturally have to shelter you from the wind and rain. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Otherwise don't tell me our many years of brotherhood were all fake? Loyal. He valued friendship. Responsible. This kind of man who would not like him. You Wu Qianqian, are you an exception? Shi Qianshan's face was solemn and righteous, but he secretly glanced at Wu Qianqian. At this moment Chu Yang shouted, That's right, with our eldest senior brother here, you want to bully me? My eldest martial brother is the #1 expert of our Beyond the Heavens sect's younger generation. Junior brother Chu, shut up. Shi Qianshan frowned and hastily stopped Chu Yang. Then he said humbly, Junior martial brother Chu, it's okay if you blindly worship me, but you can't say these words out loud. You should know that trouble comes from the mouth. #1 martial artist, haha, how could I dare to say that? This junior sister Wu in front of me is much stronger than me. Shi Qianshan's words were sincere and earnest. His words were humble, but his heart was as light as a feather. Even his bones felt lighter. My painstaking care for you has not been in vain. At the critical moment, you have really given me face. #1 expert of the younger generation. These few words were naturally junior brother Chu's blind worship of me, but this also proved my prestige. Moreover, I took advantage of the situation and lightly flattered junior sister Wu. Not only did I show my elegance, but I also won the favor of the beauty. Shi Qianshan could almost imagine that Wu Qianqian was moved by him. Shi Qianshan only cared about his own happiness, but he did not see that Wu Qianqian lowered her head and quickly bandaged Li Jian's wound. Her face was becoming more and more ugly. This matter has become completely serious. I can only quickly report back to father and let him think of a solution. Asterisk asterisk sigh, it's all Shi Qianshan's fault. You don't understand anything and blindly pretend to be a hero? Now this is great. When Li Jian goes back he will definitely add oil and sauce to the story, and then it will become a big conflict between Purple Bamboo Garden and Locking Clouds Peak. Especially with martial Uncle Li's protection, his own son was beaten up like this, how could he just let it go? Sigh. Originally it was just Chu Yang alone. After this matter was reported, as long as martial Uncle Meng and the others were there, and Chu Yang was punished to stop martial Uncle Li's face, this matter would be over. But when Shi Qianshan came, it was like a storm of thunder and lightning. With just a few words, this matter had reached a point of no return. Moreover, the most ridiculous thing was, the original culprit Chu Yang was now completely fine. Everything was carried on the shoulders of Shi Qianshan bravely. Perhaps Li Jian's hatred for Chu Yang was not as strong as his hatred for Shi Qianshan. You say, who do you think you are? Everything has nothing to do with you, why are you stirring up trouble? Hiss. Ah. Hiss. Li Jian sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain and sneered, Shi Qianshan, remember what you said today. Senior martial sister, let's go. Li Jian was also very stubborn. He actually supported himself with one leg and jumped up. He looked at Shi Qianshan with resentment and forced himself to leave. He actually did not look at Chu Yang. After all, he was in the wrong first. Chu Yang did not do anything wrong. Moreover, he accidentally stepped into the hole and twisted his leg, injuring himself. It did not seem to have anything to do with Chu Yang. Moreover, this matter was not very honorable. It was better to secretly deal with Chu Yang in the future. However, this Shi Qianshan. If I don't kill him, I will not be surnamed Li. The change in this matter made even Wu Qianshan a little dizzy. The person involved did not have anything to do with it, but the innocent person became the biggest culprit. Moreover, this trouble was not only, please tell Marshal Uncle Meng that my father invited him to Gathering Clouds Peak for a while. Wu Qianshan thought for a while and felt that she could not handle this matter directly, so she took her leave. Junior Marshal Sister Wu is too polite. Master is currently in closed-door training. When he comes out, I will immediately report. Shi Qianshan gently and elegantly said, Junior Marshal Sister is weak and delicate. It will be difficult to help this Junior Marshal brother back. Tan, you go and carry this Junior Marshal brother. You must safely send him back to Gathering Clouds Peak. Tan complied and left. Wu Qianshan also bid farewell to Shi Qianshan and Chu Yang. She thanked Shi Qianshan and turned to leave. She felt a little uncomfortable. There was a feeling of worship. It was as if talking to Shi Qianshan was talking to a dead person. Shi Qianshan looked at the three figures disappearing at the intersection. He could not help but let out a proud smile. Today he had definitely left an indelible impression on Wu Qianshan. Chu Yang's expression did not change, but his eyes faintly showed a mocking smile. An impression was definitely left, but the impression you left was a dirty one. Today's matter, it was all thanks to Senior Marshal brother. Chu Yang's expression was very sincere as he said, otherwise I would have been in big trouble. No matter. Shi Qianshan said sanctimoniously, Junior Marshal brother Chu, what is this person's name? Do you know? Chu Yang said, Junior Marshal brother does not know. Only now did you remember to ask for his name? I know his name is Li Jian, and he is the only son of second Marshal Uncle Li Jinsong. He is also one of the dirty ones of Beyond the Heavens sect. But I will not tell you. It is fine if you don't know. Shi Qianshan snorted disdainfully. He said, this guy's strength is meager and he is also not a big shot. Don't worry about it. Even if you want to take revenge, trash like him will not be able to get many people to help. Senior Marshal brothers will also not offend me for trash like him. Junior Marshal brother Chu, you can rest assured. Chu Yang said, and repeatedly thanked him. It was not until the afternoon that Tan, who had gone to see them off, came back with a gloomy face. His expression was nervous and his eyes were filled with fear. When Tan came back, Shi Qianshan was humming a tune, fantasizing about his bright future. He was practicing his sword in the courtyard. His sword danced in the air and he was in high spirits. Chu Yang was sitting cross-legged in his room, seizing every moment to improve his martial power. Strength is the right to speak. Chu Yang would never give up even a little bit of time for cultivation. Tan hurriedly came back, sweating profusely. He spoke a few words with Shi Qianshan outside. Then Chu Yang heard a clang outside. Shi Qianshan's sword, which was in the middle of dancing, fell to the ground. Then with a plop sound he sat on the ground. His face was deathly pale. Chapter 14. Immediately Shi Qianshan jumped up and rushed to the front of Chu Yang's room like a whirlwind. With a flying kick he kicked open the door. His face was unprecedentedly ferocious. Chu Yang, you motherfucker. You dare to frame me? Currently, Shi Qianshan's usual graceful bearing was nowhere to be seen. His eyes were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were almost popping out of their sockets. He was flustered and exasperated. Eldest Marshal brother, why did you say that? Chu Yang calmly exhaled and finished his breathing. His face was full of confusion. Tan also came in and hurriedly advised, eldest Marshal brother, second Marshal brother also did not know about this matter. Nonsense. Shi Qianshan angrily roared, why didn't you say it clearly? That person was Li Jianin? How could you frame me like this? Shi Qianshan felt so wrong that he was about to cry. What kind of sin did he commit? How could he be so careless and cause such a big disaster? He was really shot even when he was lying down. I was really shot even when I was lying down. Chu Yang's expression was innocent. Extremely wronged, he shouted, eldest Marshal brother, what does this matter have to do with me? When Shi Qianshan heard this, his nose became crooked from anger. Suddenly, his vision darkened and he almost spat out blood. Hearing the main culprit shout, what does this matter have to do with me, in front of the biggest victim? Shi Qianshan's heart was twitching. If it were not for you, why would I scold Li Jianyin? If it were not for you causing Li Jianyin's hatred, why would things be like this? If it were not for you, why would I be so careless, and fall into such a dangerous situation? Now you, the main culprit, are fine, and I, the innocent party, have become their irreconcilable enemy. Now you are saying, what does this matter have to do with me? You say, what does this matter have to do with you? Shi Qianshan gasped for breath. His eyes were wide open. These words filled his stomach, and he was so angry that he could not say a word. Chu Yang maliciously looked at Shi Qianshan's violently rising and falling chest. In his heart he thought that if a woman rose and fell like this, it would be very interesting. But this guy did not have the slightest bit of beauty. What a failure. Yes, eldest senior brother. What does this have to do with second senior brother? Tan Tan scratched his head and said in a simple and honest manner, we were present at that time. Second senior brother didn't say anything. But eldest senior brother, you're a righteous man. You stepped forward bravely and shielded us from the wind and rain. The two of us can't thank you enough. So, how could we harm eldest senior brother? Tan Tan was speaking from the bottom of his heart. His praise for Shi Qianshan came from the bottom of his heart. He truly had a good impression of this big martial brother. But these words in Shi Qianshan's ears were incomparably bitter sarcasm. Righteous? Step forward bravely? Shelter you from the wind and rain? What a funny thing. Who do you think you are? Shi Qianshan's body swayed twice and his vision turned black. He opened his mouth but no words came out. His face was as red as pig liver. He was so angry that his head buzzed. In an instant he saw stars. With a heavy snort, Shi Qianshan flicked his sleeves and went out with a black face. He heard a sudden cough coming from the courtyard, and then the sound of someone stumbling could be heard. Until the next morning when Tan Tan went out, he found that someone had vomited blood in the grass. The smell of blood assailed his nostrils. This matter made the poor Tan Tan puzzled for a few days. Who vomited blood? So strange. Chu Yang watched Shi Qianshan go out, and his eyes were filled with endless ice. Shi Qianshan was vicious and scheming. Moreover, he was also cunning and scheming. He was like a poisonous snake. Such a person should have died early, but Chu Yang was not willing to let Shi Qianshan die early. Firstly, from Shi Qianshan, Chu Yang could learn a lot of things that he did not have. For example, sinister, vicious, patient, scheming, smooth, these were all things that Chu Yang did not have in his previous life. But it must be said that although these qualities could be said to be despicable, in this world where the strong were respected, they were qualities that one could not lack in Jianghu. When a real man should be vicious, he should be vicious. When it was time to play tricks, he should play tricks. When it was time to play tricks, he should use them especially. Because all of this was to protect himself. If even he could not protect himself, then, no matter how great his ambition was, it would be nothing more than an illusion. Throughout the ages, there were loyal and treacherous people. But one thing was for sure, to leave one's name in history for hundreds of generations, it was far more difficult than to leave one's name in infamy. So, those who could leave their names in history were most likely more treacherous than those who were not. Their schemes must be several times more cunning. Secondly, there were some things that Chu Yang could not directly show up for now. If the people of the sect found out about his true strength, then he was afraid that he would be in endless trouble. Especially those who coveted the position of eldest martial brother. Once they found out that a strong competitor like him suddenly popped out, wouldn't he become their target? Under public criticism, even if he had 3 arms and 3 heads, with his current strength that had not yet begun to grow, he was afraid that he would meet a miserable end. It was better for Shi Qianshan to be in front of him. For example, today, everything was pushed to Shi Qianshan's head. Singing opera was very tiring. It was far less relaxing than watching a play. Also, Chu Yang felt that the current him was lacking a lot. Moreover, the path of this life must not be the same as the path of his previous life. In his previous life, he cultivated the emotionless sword Dao and could seclude himself in the mountains to meditate. But in this life he could not. In this life, from the moment he was on the verge of death in his previous life, he began to walk a completely different path from his previous life. What he missed in his previous life, what he did not experience, he had to start all over again in this life. Although he had been reborn in name, other than having an impression of some sensitive things or things related to himself, he knew nothing about other things. He could not hide from the world like he did in his previous life. He needed to experience the world bit by bit. Walking out of the swamp of the world was the pinnacle of the sword Dao, the way of heaven. Shi Qianshan, playing slowly like this, letting him be in front of him until he died, was also not bad. At least, with this target in front of him, he could calmly observe and plan. Although he was not a person he admired. But this did not matter. As for Li Jianyin's injury, of course, Chu Yang had calculated his momentum and purposely set a trap. Retreating and sitting on his neck was also a deliberate move. Although he did not have the peerless martial power of his previous life, he still had the foresight. Wanting to set a trap to deal with the impetuous Li Jianyin was as easy as turning over his hand. Gathering clouds peak. In the study room, the sect master Wu Yunliang sat quietly on a red sandalwood chair with a slight smile on his face. Next to him was a young man in a green robe. His face was white without a beard and his bearing was calm. His eyes seemed to contain infinite wisdom. This was the master of Dreaming Clouds Peak, the seventh junior brother, Kong Jingfeng. He was also the brains of Beyond the Heavens sect. Wu Qianqian was standing opposite him, reporting what had happened. When she talked about the trip to Purple Bamboo Garden, Li Jianyin's inexplicable injury and Chu Yang, Shi Qianshan, and the others Wu Yunliang and Kong Jingfeng, who had always been calm, looked at each other in surprise. In your opinion, what do you think of the 3 disciples of Purple Bamboo Garden? Wu Yunliang asked casually. He did not ask about Li Jianyin's injury, but asked about the 3 disciples of Purple Bamboo Garden. Chapter 15. It's hard to say. Wu Qianqian hesitated and said with uncertainty. Oh, hard to say. What's hard to say? Kong Jingfeng looked at his niece with interest and asked with a smile. The 3's performance was very different from the rumors. Wu Qianqian frowned and said, Rumor has it that Shi Qianshan is mature and prudent. He can handle matters on his own without leaving any loopholes. But this time I was greatly disappointed when I saw it. As for second brother Chu Yang, rumor has it that he is taciturn and introverted. But today he seemed to have a hidden edge. He looked like a coward, but in his bones he... Wu Qianqian thought for a while but could not find the right words. She could only say, in short, this person is very strange. I can't see through him. As for third brother Tan Tan, he is just like the rumors. He is extremely out of tune. After she finished speaking, the 2 became silent. They frowned and did not say anything. After a while, Wu Yunliang stood up and slowly walked to the wall. He reached out and a large mural on the wall was removed, revealing a piece of white paper. On the white paper, from top to bottom, there was a list of names on the left side. There were a total of 40 names. After each name there was a red tick. There were more than 10 names with 2 ticks. There were also 2 names in the first and second place with 3 ticks. These 2 names were Shui Yi Meng and Qin Mu Shang. Li Jianyin's name was 10th. Shi Qianshan's name was 13th. But Chu Yang and Tan Tan's names were not on the list. Wu Yunliang held the brush and was silent for a while. Then he drew Li Jianyin's name with a red tick. He erased Li Jianyin's name. Then he carefully thought for a while and wrote 2 words at the bottom, Chu Yang. Then he added a question mark after Chu Yang's name. Then he took 2 steps back and frowned. Then he waved the brush again and erased Chu Yang's name. Only a question mark was left. I'm afraid this matter will cause a huge uproar. Kong Jingfeng furrowed his brows. Our Beyond the Heavens sect is already in an unstable state. Now that this matter has happened, junior apprentice brother Meng is also involved. Junior martial brother Meng won't get involved. With his temper, unless Beyond the Heavens sect is destroyed, he will not care about anything else. Wu Yunliang shook his head, but his tone was very certain. Then his face darkened as he said, that Shi Qianshan is really that unbearable? His tone was unexpectedly filled with disappointment. Yes. Wu Qianqian's impression of Shi Qianshan was extremely bad. This Shi Qianshan, who was usually praised as mature and steady, in her heart, was a super idiot. Moreover, he was a blind idiot. He was hopeless. Wu Yunliang sighed deeply. The 2 of them did not say much about this matter. Clearly they did not take it to heart. After all, it was just a quarrel between the younger generation. It didn't affect the overall situation. Now both of them had worried looks on their faces. It was obvious that they were worried about something else. Wu Yunliang waved his hand. Wu Qianqian understood and quietly retreated. Only the 2 of them were left in the study. Big brother, my suggestion. Kong Jingfeng said tentatively. Don't worry. Wu Yunliang waved his hand with a worried expression. Kong Jingfeng was silent for a while. Then he said heavily, our Beyond the Heavens sect is only the 7th generation. The 1st generation martial ancestor established the sect and became one of the top 7 sects in lower 3 heavens. It was a great honor. However, the second-generation martial ancestor broke off relations with the great Zhao royal family. Since then, the sect's reputation plummeted. The sect's experts were hunted down and more than half of them died. Finally, the second-generation martial ancestor inadvertently helped the royal family in his later years. The relationship with the royal family was no longer good. However, he was barely able to recuperate and return to the first garden. The third-generation martial ancestor was extremely talented. They were all heroes of the world. Originally, the sect thought that because of this, the sect would prosper. Who would have thought that because of this, it would lead to internal strife in the first garden? After a fierce battle, people killed each other. Beyond the Heavens sect's strength was greatly damaged. They only left behind an order to not kill each other. But now, other than junior martial brother Meng's purple bamboo garden, the first garden has begun to fight again. The next 8th-generation martial ancestor, the position of the top 10 martial ancestor, will be another life-and-death battle. The sect's strength will be greatly damaged. This is foreseeable. Our Beyond the Heavens sect has fallen from being one of the top sects to being a second-rate sect. Kong Jingfeng's voice was very cautious at first. However, the more he spoke, the more impassioned he became. Eldest martial brother, the first garden looks grand, but everyone has their own thoughts. It's better to have none. Being so scattered, spies are emerging one after another. Our Beyond the Heavens sect is in danger. Of the 7 great sects, only one is left. The remaining position is coveted by the Red Dust Pavilion and the Heart Sword House for a long time. They are our most powerful competitors. Furthermore, the Godly Saber Pavilion and the Black Blood Union have a deep hatred for us. They will not give up on killing us. Our Beyond the Heavens sect is now in imminent peril. Kong Jingfeng's expression was sorrowful. Eldest martial brother, we can't help but be anxious. How can I not know what you are talking about? Wu Yunliang sighed. What you are talking about is only the Jianghu factor and external factors. You have yet to talk about the real danger. In the past few years, the 8th generation of Beyond the Heavens sect had nearly 100 male disciples. However, only a few of them were successful. As for the female disciples 10 years ago, there were less than 50. Now there are nearly 150. Even though their talents are limited, their appearances are as beautiful as flowers. Wu Yunliang let out a long sigh. With his hands behind his back, he walked to the window and said in a low voice, "This is the sign of the sect's demise. Beauty is the root of disaster." Wu Yunliang said casually, "In this continent where the strong are respected, beauty is a resource. It is the root of disaster. The decline of Beyond the Heavens sect is imminent. When the 8th generation of disciples roams the Jianghu, it will certainly cause endless disputes. It is the root of disaster, but it is also not necessarily a resource." Kong Jingfeng refuted. "Roaming the Jianghu may bring a lot of help to our Beyond the Heavens sect. Who knows? Do you think it is possible?" Wu Yunliang smiled mockingly. "Beauty is only a tool in the eyes of the strong. Right now, Beyond the Heavens sect is plagued by internal and external troubles. If we follow your suggestion and forcefully merge the peaks into one, I am afraid we will immediately fall apart. We will fall into a state of collapse." Wu Yunliang said heavily, "At that time, if the enemies take advantage of this opportunity to attack, our Beyond the Heavens sect will be destroyed immediately. A serious illness requires serious medicine. The saying is true. But if the illness was incurable, using heavy medicine rashly would only result in immediate death. Not to mention, our enemies are far more than these." Wu Yunliang wanted to say something but hesitated. It was as if there was something difficult to say. Kong Jingfeng said unwillingly, "Are we going to continue like this? Are we going to let the sect slowly decline? We need to rely on external forces." When Wu Yunliang said the words "rely on external forces," his face was very complicated. He said each word with a pause. His eyes showed that he was going to cut off all means of retreat. After that, he did not say anything else. He only silently looked at the 30 names and one question mark on the wall. He did not say anything for a long time. But what about the female disciples? Kong Jingfeng's heart relaxed but immediately became tense again. Chapter 16. What I am worried about right now is this. Wu Yunliang's eyes were deep. If Beyond the Heavens sect can quickly grow stronger, then we can protect these female disciples from being bullied and let them find a home they want. But right now, we can only try our best. Kong Jingfeng sighed deeply and said, "Regarding Li Jianyin's matter, second martial brother will definitely not let it go. What does eldest martial brother think about this?" Second martial brother has always been fierce and protective. This time he will definitely make a move against Purple Bamboo Garden. Wu Yunliang said casually, but he also knows junior martial brother's temper, so he will only be angry and will not personally make a move. The ones who will make a move are probably second martial brother's disciples. No matter who wins or loses this time, it will be a trial for both martial brothers and sisters. Wu Yunliang said softly, as long as it is not excessive, there is no need to care. If we can find a few talents in this matter, it will not be a bad thing. The two of them were silent. At the same time, they raised their heads and looked at the 30 names and a question mark on the wall. In a large sect of 1,000 people, the two of them looked like they were looking for gold in the sand. Only these people. These people were the hope of Beyond the Heavens sect. Whether it was protecting Beyond the Heavens sect's position, attacking the 7 great sects, or even entering the lower 3 heavens and becoming the legend of lower 3 heavens, it all depended on these people. 30 people and a question mark were the elites of Beyond the Heavens sect. For such a large sect, this was simply desolate. Looking at these names, Kong Jingfeng was thinking about something else. Eldest senior brother clearly knew that Li Jianyin was narrow-minded and had feelings for Wu Qianqian. Yet he still allowed him to accompany Wu Qianqian to deliver the message. With Wu Qianqian's beauty, she would definitely attract the admiration of some of the younger brothers. It was expected that she would cause trouble, but eldest senior brother still did it. They didn't just randomly pick a disciple from their own Gathering Clouds Peak to pass the message. Gathering Clouds Peak and Locking Clouds Peak each sent a disciple to pass the message. On the surface, it looked like they valued this matter, and also gave a lot of face to second senior brother. But in reality, they were faintly intensifying the conflict between the younger generation. Eldest martial brother? Did he do it intentionally? This must be a method to deal with second senior brother's Locking Clouds Peak. Kong Jingfeng looked at Wu Yunliang's back and slowly thought to himself. Of course he could not say this out loud. Hopefully he would succeed. Kong Jingfeng thought to himself. With a rustling sound, an almost colorless light flew in from outside the window. A small white bird landed on the table. It tilted its head and looked at the two of them with its round black eyes. Colorless eagle. Both of their eyes lit up at the same time. Kong Jingfeng looked at the eagle and asked, "Big brother, could this be Iron Cloud?" Wu Yunliang's eyes darkened. He nodded and took out a small ball from the colorless eagle's body. Inside there was a small piece of paper. Looking at it, his expression became heavy. After a long while, he raised his eyebrows as if he had made a decision. Chuyang didn't know about these things. He also didn't know that the sex crisis had reached such a stage. He was currently practicing martial arts. In fact, he only knew that the sect would be destroyed in 4 years. But as for the reason, he didn't know. In his previous life he was only an insignificant little brother at this time. No one told him, and with his reclusive personality he didn't ask. In 3 months the sect's grand competition would begin. This competition would last for half a year. From nearly 800 disciples there would be only 10 left. Then these 10 people would go through 3 years of arduous training. After 4 years the most outstanding one would be the big brother. But Chuyang couldn't wait that long. He needed to establish his position in this half a year. He needed to enter 7 Shades congregation grounds and obtain the first fragment of Tribulation Sword. If he wanted to do this, he needed to double his efforts. Although he had been reborn, he had nothing to rely on. Everything had to be obtained through his own sweat and sweat. With his current strength as a 4th-level martial disciple, even if he had experience, all his experience was just empty talk in front of his peers who were more than 10 levels higher than him. Martial arts could only be effective within a certain range. But tactics also had limitations. A trap dug by a group of children might be able to catch a rabbit, but it couldn't trap a tiger. Chuyang was currently practicing like a madman. 1 day and 1 night passed, and there was no movement from Li Jianyin's side. He only heard from Tan Tan that when Li Jianyin was sent back, second martial uncle Li Jinsong was furious and roared for a long time, but Chuyang didn't feel any pressure. If the sky fell, there would be a tall one to hold it up. Right now Shi Qianshan was that tall one. Let him hold it up. Purple bamboo swayed in the wind. Chuyang's body was like a mountain. Both his feet were stepping on a sharp stone, but his body didn't move. He maintained absolute balance in all aspects. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The long sword at his waist was unsheathed and then sheathed again. The cycle repeated over and over again. This simple movement he had practiced for an entire morning. The ground under his body was already soaked with sweat. His left foot took half a step forward. The tip of his foot pointed outwards. His right foot stood in the same place. His eyes calmly looked forward. His hand was already on the hilt of the sword. With a slight sound, he raised his hand, raised his arm, twisted his waist and rushed forward. The light of the sword rushed forward, steadily pointing forward. His eyes were on the same level without the slightest tremor. His right hand holding the sword seemed to be straight yet not straight. Obviously he still had some strength left. Then the light of the sword flashed. With a light sound, the sword returned to the scabbard. Chu Yang's eyes were fixed. Looking at his face and eyes, no one could tell whether he was satisfied with this movement or not. Then he continued to repeat. The same movement, dry and boring. Normal people would be tired after dozens of times. But Chu Yang, in the morning before the sun came out, had already repeated it 1,000 times. There was no longer any sweat on his body. In just one morning his arm went from normal to sore, then lost feeling, then regained feeling, then numb again. No matter if it was sore or numb or breaking through the limit or normal, he always controlled the standard of his sword. The cyan steel sword was very ordinary. The black iron scabbard was even more ordinary. The quiet night of the purple bamboo forest was stirred up by this ordinary sword, and the sword energy was everywhere. The sound of the sword seemed to be getting softer and softer. From the initial clear sound of a clang to the current soft sound of a crack, it was almost inaudible. Chu Yang did not stop. Chu Yang did not realize that not long after he started practicing, in the bamboo forest several feet away from him, there was a tall figure silently watching him. Chu Yang practiced for the whole morning and he watched for the whole morning. The morning dew had already soaked his whole body, but he seemed to be afraid of disturbing Chu Yang, and just watched quietly. Finally the east was slightly bright. Chu Yang returned the sword to the scabbard for the last time, and let out a long breath. He stood quietly, and the murderous air in the air also slowly faded. He restrained the sword intent and murderous intent in his heart. When practicing the sword, there must be murderous intent in his heart. Only then would he constantly cultivate the sharp sword energy in his heart. This was not difficult for Chu Yang to do. As long as he thought of Shi Qianshan and Emotianji, he would involuntarily become murderous. There was no need to deliberately cultivate it. When he opened his eyes again, he saw that there was one more person in front of him. Master? Chu Yang called out softly. This person was actually Meng Chao Ran, who had already announced that he would go into seclusion. Now that we have just entered the member clicker list, how many places can we rush to today? Chapter 17. You've been practicing for 5 hours and you haven't moved. Meng Chao Ran looked at his second brother and said thoughtfully, You don't seem to be practicing the sword? Teacher is wise. Chu Yang smiled. He had always respected this teacher, whether it was in his previous life or now. Meng Chao Ran had always been indifferent, but no one dared to bully him. He seemed to be detached from the world and didn't care about anything, but nothing in the world could be hidden from him. His heart had a scale, weighing the world. Such a person, no matter where he was a rare talent. But he also had something in his heart that he wanted to protect, and that was his sect. Beyond the Heavens sect. That was why he didn't retreat when Beyond the Heavens sect was in danger. But he also protected his younger brother in the midst of a storm of blood. Maybe his teacher had other regrets, but Chu Yang didn't know. He only knew that his teacher often stood alone in the wind in the middle of the night, as if he was reminiscing, as if he was sighing, as if he was thinking of something. You're practicing your heart, your mind, and your sword speed. You're also controlling the volume of the sword. Meng Chao Ran said lightly with his hands behind his back. Who taught you all these? No one taught me. I just feel that I need to use my heart when I use my sword. Every sword needs to be used with my heart in order to be effective. Chu Yang said, I used to practice the sword for the sake of practicing the sword and I fell behind too much. Oh, not bad. Meng Chao Ran nodded lightly and waved his hand. Chu Yang felt a weight on his hand, and he saw that there was a water bottle in his hand. After you finished practicing the sword, you withdrew your sword heart and sword intent, and dispersed your heart sword energy. Then you said a few words to me. Today your realm has stabilized so you can drink water. Meng Chao Ran said with a smile. After excessive exercise you can't continue to drink water. If you drank water the moment you stopped practicing the sword, then the results of your morning's hard work would be wasted. And it would be harmful to the body. But now, after a period of buffer, there was no problem. Yes. Chu Yang raised the water bottle, drank a few mouthfuls and then put it down. Although he was extremely thirsty, he couldn't drink too much water. Everyone understood this principle, but there were not many who could truly control themselves. Meng Qiaoran had been looking at his face all this time. Only now did he slowly let out a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "Only by practicing the sword with your heart can you achieve the heart of the sword. Only when the heart of the sword is formed can one have the sword resolve. Only when the sword resolve is formed can one dominate the world. In your generation all of you know this principle, but there aren't many who actually do it. Now you've barely comprehended this level. Not bad. However, we still need to continue working hard." He paused for a moment and said, "I don't care how you practice the sword. But why did you control the volume of the sword?" Chu Yang laughed mischievously and said, "Master, all the swordsmen and sabermen in the entire Chongtian continent are equally powerful. In short, those weapons that required scabbards were all made of iron. Some wealthy people would have scabbards made of gold, silver, or even black gold. There were even more expensive ones. But no matter what, it was still metal. The metal was firm, resistant to wear and tear, and could be used for a long time. Furthermore, it could be used as an offensive weapon as a last resort. These are all advantages. However, when a weapon is unsheathed, the friction between the scabbards makes a clear sound." "Correct." Meng Qiaoran nodded. "But if the sound is clear, it gives the enemy time to prepare. I think this is the shortcoming of the metal scabbards." Chu Yang said frankly and with assurance, "Master, why do you practice the sword? It's to kill. If you want to exercise, you don't need weapons. Since you want to kill, why give the enemy time to prepare? Isn't it straightforward to kill with one strike? I practice the silent sword to attack when the enemy is unprepared." Chu Yang smiled and said, "Jianghu is ruthless. A man should kill. Blood splashes for 3,000 miles. I always think that the highest level of killing is to kill without being seen." "Killing without being seen? Just like how you frame Shi Qianshan?" Meng Qiaoran tilted his head. His eyes suddenly became sharp. Chu Yang was startled. He didn't expect Meng Qiaoran to see through his plan. "I have to say, framing Shi Qianshan is the most satisfying thing in my life." Chu Yang smiled calmly. He didn't deny it. Then he said in a low voice, "If he wasn't blinded by lust and blinded by greed, he wouldn't have been framed by me." Meng Qiaoran looked at him deeply. He sighed deeply and immediately skipped the topic. He clasped his hands behind his back and walked forward. He said indifferently, "You just said that you learned the sword to kill. Isn't that biased? You should know that in this world there are a lot of lovable things. There are also a lot of concerns. Learning the sword is not necessarily to kill but to protect. Using your own sword to protect what you care about. People or things." Meng Qiaoran sighed and said, "Human lives are important. If you can avoid killing, then don't kill. No matter how ruthless a murderer was, killing a person would hurt his heart a little. No matter if the person you kill is evil or not, after all, they are the blood of your father. They are also other people's children, husbands, brothers, and fathers. Master also said to protect, and I agree. But when others come to harm the things we protect, in order to not let our loved ones cry." Chu Yang followed Meng Qiaoran's footsteps and walked forward slowly. He said firmly, "Then we can only let the enemy's parents cry. This person must be killed." Meng Qiaoran said, "Where it is possible to let people off, let them off. I let people off, but they won't let me off." Chu Yang said, "The human world is like this. It is better to solve crises and enemies as soon as possible. You have killed too many people." Meng Qiaoran said, "This is not good." He shook his head in pity. "You should know that if revenge breeds revenge, will there ever be an end to it? Then cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. That way it will be over immediately." Chu Yang said bluntly, "Master, you are too soft-hearted. You are not like the people of Jianghu. You practice the sword silently, which is equivalent to a sneak attack. This goes against the martial arts rules of Jianghu. I am afraid that it will cause criticism. This will affect your future and it will not be good." Chu Yang laughed and said, "Rules are rules. I am me. Why should I follow those rules? I think there is only one rule when I do things. That is to protect my own life. That is the biggest rule. If you lose your life even if you follow the rules, it will be nonsense." He paused and laughed mockingly. "Not to mention how many people in Jianghu still follow those rules. Those so-called rules have become the cause of death for honest people." Meng Qiaoran was silent. The master and disciple could not convince each other, but they both felt a sense of novelty. In Chu Yang's previous life, he only respected his master and never argued with him. Now the two of them were talking and walking. Although they were talking about killing people, they felt warmth in their hearts. Meng Qiaoran was the same. He did not agree with Chu Yang's words, but he could not deny that they were reasonable. He did not say anything because even if it was his own disciple, he had never forced anyone. Everyone has their own path. How to walk, let them choose for themselves. Master, there is one thing that I can't figure out. Chuyang said thoughtfully. You are talking about Shi Qianshan? Meng Qiaoran smiled. I have always condoned Shi Qianshan's hypocrisy to deceive you. I allowed Shi Qianshan to monopolize the sect's resources, but I did not ask about it, right? Yes. Chuyang raised his eyebrows and looked up. This matter was the doubt in his heart. Since Meng Qiaoran knew, why did he not stop it? Shi Qianshan was a disciple. Were the two of them not disciples? Chuyang was not dissatisfied, but he knew that Meng Qiaoran must have his reasons. Right now he was asking because the next step was to kill Shi Qianshan. But what if he ruined Meng Qiaoran's plan? Chapter 18. I didn't deal with it because it was Shi Qianshan's ability. You two are stupid. It's useless to talk about it. Meng Qiaoran said, treacherous and cunning. Although it's despicable, it's also a skill. It's also a prerequisite for success in Jianghu. Shi Qianshan was not secretive enough and was discovered by you. Meng Qiaoran paused and said, Shi Qianshan is still a hypocrite. Chuyang silently followed behind him for a while and said softly, I understand. Meng Qiaoran did not turn his head and continued to walk. His tone was still indifferent. If you did not discover, I will continue to indulge Shi Qianshan until he no longer needs my indulgence. Although I only have you 3 martial brothers in my sect, this is also Jianghu. Life and death, it's your own business, your own choice. When he said, life and death, it's your own business, your own choice. When he said this, Meng Qiaoran's face did not change, but his voice suddenly became heavy. This sentence seemed ruthless, but Chuyang sighed deeply. Master is only a guide. His own future path must be walked by himself. Meng Qiaoran's current inaction seemed ruthless, but in fact, it was to let his younger brother experience Jianghu. Even if it was a little late, it would still be a step ahead of the other brothers. Moreover, this was his own understanding. It was completely different from what others taught him. Although it was cruel, this kind of cruelty was something that he would experience sooner or later. The earlier he experienced it, the more likely he would be able to survive. In his previous life, after his sect was destroyed, he gradually understood his master's painstaking efforts. If you continue to be so stupid, when you start out in the future, sooner or later you will die in the hands of others. Then I will not have high hopes for you. Do not blame me for being cruel. Our Beyond the Heavens sect needs strong people, not idiots. Shi Qianshan is treacherous and ruthless. He is not a good person. Meng Qiaoran finally stood still. Chuyang realized that they were already at the cliff behind the mountain. Meng Qiaoran said, but Shi Qianshan can succeed. His aptitude is also good. So I indulged him and suppressed you. Before this, all of you were very mediocre, too mediocre and simple. The smaller your achievements, the greater your chances of survival. Even if you were bullied, you would still be able to survive. I want my brother to live. I don't care which path you take. Meng Qiaoran said, everything is decided by the heavens. If you hadn't suddenly become enlightened, I wouldn't have said anything to you. Perhaps I am not a competent teacher, but since the first time Shi Qianshan deceived you and you did not realize it and were even grateful to him, I have already decided your life's path. He turned his head and looked deeply into Chuyang's eyes. Until that day when you started to test me. I understand. Meng Qiaoran's words were indifferent and emotionless. But Chuyang felt a burst of gratitude. If Meng Qiaoran exposed Shi Qianshan's true colors, the two of them would suffer even more. Although I announced that I would be going into seclusion for the past few days, I have been secretly watching you all. Meng Qiaoran sighed and laughed. Only now did I realize that I, Meng Qiaoran, had actually made a mistake again. You Chuyang have greatly exceeded my expectations. So, I began to change my original intention. Chuyang blushed with shame. It was not that he had made his teacher make a mistake. In his previous life he had indeed been this stupid. But his teacher said that he had made a mistake again. This sentence seemed to have a deeper meaning. Could it be that he had made a mistake once before? However, your character needs to change. Meng Qiaoran seemed to think for a while. Then he said heavily, in Jianghu, killing is inevitable. But your words today are too murderous. And now, you already know how to work hard. In the future your achievements may not be below mine. So, I am worried, if one day you find your biological parents who abandoned you. So, today I want to talk to you. Haha. Chuyang laughed coldly. His eyes flashed with a strong hatred. As a person of 2 lives, This was the biggest demon in his heart. Chuyang was an orphan. Or it should be said that he was an abandoned child. When Meng Ran picked him up, he was still an infant. In the dead of winter, he was thrown in front of a dilapidated temple. After Chuyang knew about this matter, the anger in his heart could not be contained. You gave birth to me. Why did you abandon me? Even if you threw me into a commoner's family, I could still live. But you threw me in front of a dilapidated temple on a cold winter night. Even if you threw me in the temple, I could still breathe a little more. You clearly wanted me to die. But you could not bear to kill your own newborn child. So you chose to cover your ears while stealing a bell. But a child who was not even 1 year old? If he did not meet a kind person, wouldn't he die? How could there be such heartless parents in the world? Looking at the deep hatred on Chuyang's face, Meng Ran sighed deeply. Let me give you 3 words of advice. You must remember them well. First, without them you would have survived. Second, everything has a cause and effect. There are no parents in the world who do not love their child. Thirdly, the heavenly Tao is the norm. Your life was given to you by your parents. Teacher is right. Chuyang said calmly. Meng Ran sighed in his heart. He knew that Chuyang did not mean what he said. This knot in his heart could not be untied. He said, Teacher is right. He did not say, little brother will remember. It was obvious. It was not surprising. Among the 800 disciples of Beyond the Heavens sect, there were many orphans. But most of them had lost their parents. There were only 2 children who were abandoned by their parents, Chuyang and Tan Tan. The feeling of being abandoned, especially by his own biological parents, was indescribable. As one grew older and got used to seeing the world, one would become angrier. Especially, Chuyang was a person with a strong sense of self-esteem. Chuyang's reclusive character was born after he learned about the world. After learning about his own life, he became taciturn. Over time he became like this. The hatred in his heart had been accumulating for 10 years. Meng Ran sighed in his heart. He looked at his younger brother with pity. Under Chuyang's calm face, Meng Ran could feel a surge of sadness and anger. If it was ignited, even Chuyang himself would be burned to ashes. Meng Ran only knew that Chuyang's anger had been accumulating for 10 years. But he would never have thought that his anger had been accumulating for more than 10 years. This was the accumulation of hatred from 2 lifetimes. You already know the sect's martial techniques. You also know the fists, legs, sabers, and swords. Besides the core martial techniques of Beyond the Heavens sect, you already know them all. Meng Ran said softly, in the future it will depend on you. The remaining core martial techniques of Beyond the Heavens sect can only be taught to the 10 brothers. Everything depends on you. Yes. Chuyang nodded. The 2 of them were standing at the top of the mountain. At this moment there was a burst of light in the east. The sun suddenly jumped out from the horizon. Meng Ran's eyes narrowed as he stared at the east. His eyes seemed to be dyed with countless colorful clouds, emitting an indescribable brilliance. Slowly, it condensed into a dazzling ray of light. The sky was bright. Chuyang suddenly felt that his master Meng Ran's back at this moment was bleak and lonely. The sun had just risen. The slanting rays of light pulled Meng Ran's body into a long shadow, spreading through the mountain forest. After a long time, Meng Ran said in a low voice, Chuyang, you are the first child I picked up. When I picked you up on that snowy night, I knew that there would be a tragedy. At that time I wanted to throw you away. I didn't want to be involved in this karma. Chuyang's body shook. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Meng Ran's back. His lips moved but he didn't say anything. But there was one thing that changed my mind. Meng Ran's back was facing Chuyang, but he stretched out his hand. His fist gradually loosened. Inside there was a jade pendant the size of a little finger. Chapter 19. The jade pendant was completely purple, just like the purple clouds that accompanied the sun when it first appeared in the sky. With one look, one would know that this strange purple was not a color that should exist in the human world. The moment it appeared in Meng Ran's palm, because it came in contact with the sun, it suddenly shone brightly. It was as if all the purple in the world was gathered here. This was a piece of precious jade. With one look, Chuyang came to this conclusion. In his previous life he had traveled the world and seen countless rare treasures. He had even seen countless jades of the highest quality. However, there were very few that could compare to this small piece of jade in front of him. This piece of jade is purple crystal jade essence. Meng Ran said quietly, although it looks small, it is an extremely complete piece of jade essence. This kind of purple crystal jade essence is rarely seen in 10,000 years. Only 10,000 pieces of top-quality jade can compare to the value of one piece of purple crystal jade. Only in the core of a purple crystal jade mine that has been here for 10,000 years, there is a small chance that a piece of jade essence will appear. The value of this piece of purple crystal jade essence is unparalleled. Meng Qiaoran slowly turned around. When I picked you up, this piece of jade essence was hanging around your neck. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Chu Yang's face. Chu Yang even felt a strong burning sensation on his face. Chu Yang's Adam's apple bobbed twice. Suddenly his throat felt dry. He reached out to take this priceless piece of purple crystal jade essence. His usually steady hand was actually trembling. Was this the only token of his identity that he had? This piece of jade essence has the word Chu engraved on it. Meng Qiaoran said slowly, the surface of the jade essence is not damaged, but this word appeared on the inside. This kind of cultivation is something that even I can't match. I definitely can't do. The word Chu could be your first name or your last name. Meng Qiaoran sighed slightly. When I carried you out of there and climbed up a mountain, the sky suddenly cleared up. The night had passed and a sun appeared in the east. He paused and said, just like today at this moment. The rising sun was the love of my life. So at that time I gave you the name Chu Yang. Meng Qiaoran's voice was a little hoarse. Although his tone was calm, there seemed to be a surge of magma roaring under the calm. I hope that you won't disappoint the name Chu Yang. Don't waste this purple crystal jade essence. Meng Qiaoran took a deep breath and immediately calmed down. He said, your background shouldn't be ordinary. If you continue to be as mediocre as you were in the past, I won't give you this jade essence. Actually, I hope that you will live a mediocre life, Meng Qiaoran said softly. But I hope that you can live a peaceful life. He did not turn around, but his eyes were filled with deep emotions. Just like a father who had endured hardships, he only hoped that his son would be safe and sound, and did not have any extravagant hopes for wealth and honor. This was because great wealth came with corresponding risks. Parents wouldn't want their daughter to take any risks. Chu Yang listened quietly. He did not interrupt. But in his heart, huge waves surged to the heavens. Meng Qiaoran's words had completely disrupted his state of mind. These words seemed to be a simple and straightforward narration of Chu Yang's life experience. But Chu Yang could hear that these words contained too much information. Purple crystal jade essence. It was priceless and rarely seen in the world. There were words on the inside, but the surface was not damaged. Purple crystal jade essence was difficult to be damaged by swords and sabers. It also had the ability to avoid true energy and elemental energy. Even the innate saint power of the divine clan could not damage it. Purple crystal jade essence was naturally even more powerful. Even a revered martial artist would find it difficult to leave such a mark on it. Not to mention leaving words on the inside of the jade without damaging the surface. Could it be that the person who carved this word was an emperor-level martial artist? Or even higher? With such a rare treasure hanging around the neck of a baby in swaddling clothes, how could they abandon the baby? What was the inside story behind all of this? Chu Yang's background was shrouded in layers of mystery. If he wanted to uncover this mystery, he would need a considerable amount of strength. And the person who carved this word must have been an emperor-level martial artist or even higher 10 years ago. Chu Yang's teeth lightly bit his lower lip. His eyes were fixed and flashed with an inexplicable light. He might not have been abandoned. There might be some other reason for this. This thought, once it arose, it was like a million rays of sunlight, dispersing the haze in his heart. It made his cold heart slowly warm up. He slowly closed his palm and held the piece of purple crystal jade essence tightly in his palm. The jade essence was smooth and cold, but Chu Yang was excited. He circulated his true energy in his hand and touched the jade essence. Suddenly there was a strange warmth. This warmth was like a stream of air, flowing through his palm and into his meridians. Slowly his whole body became warm. The tiredness from the morning's arduous cultivation had completely disappeared at this moment. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Meng Qiaoran. Your feeling is not wrong. Meng Qiaoran smiled. This purple crystal jade essence has the ability to quickly recover from fatigue. It might also have other effects. You must take good care of it. But I advise you not to rely on this thing too much. Yes. Chu Yang's eyes were full of gratitude. With such a treasure on him, he could cultivate day and night without stopping. Naturally, his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. No matter who it fell into, they would probably keep it for themselves. As long as Meng Qiaoran did not say anything, Chu Yang would never know. Even if it was placed in front of him, he would not know that it was his own identification. But Meng Qiaoran had silently kept it for 10 years and returned it to him. This kind of sentiment was rare in the world. In Chu Yang's heart, Meng Qiaoran's care and persistence were far more precious than this purple crystal jade essence. Chu Yang also understood what Meng Qiaoran meant by not relying on it too much. Because if there was no fatigue, there would be no limit to the body's endurance. And martial artists could only break through their current realm when they felt their limits. From this jade pendant, if you are not from a wealthy family, then you must be from a Beyond the Heavens clan. Meng Qiaoran slowly said, before your strength reaches a certain level, do not touch it. That will bring you a fatal disaster. If you reach that stage, even if the entire Beyond the Heavens sect goes all out, they may not be able to save your life. Remember this. Yes, I will remember. Chu Yang solemnly replied. Ever since he saw this purple crystal jade essence, he had this feeling in his heart. Also, one of my greatest wishes in life is to bring glory to Beyond the Heavens sect. Protect Beyond the Heavens sect. Meng Qiaoran sighed, since you have the heart of a strong person, then help me protect it well. Yes. Chu Yang nodded deeply. Others did not know, but he clearly knew that in 4 years Beyond the Heavens sect would face a great calamity. Now that he had nodded, he had placed this matter on his shoulders. With his current insignificant cultivation, to do this, he might not be able to do it even if he put in 1,000 times more effort than others. But no matter what, in life he had a first goal. Beyond the Heavens sect. Once Beyond the Heavens sect survived this crisis, it would be time for him to travel the world with his sword, to find the Sword of Calamity, to find Jianghu, and to solve the mystery of his birth. After Chu Yang's rebirth, his goal had been very simple. Jianghu, the Sword of Calamity. Find Jianghu, love her for life. Find the Sword of Calamity and reach the peak. As for the mystery of his birth, in his previous life, he did not know about the purple crystal jade essence, and did not have any hope for the mystery of his birth. As for the sect, his feelings had always been very indifferent. But in this life, these two things had appeared in front of him at the same time. Master, why did you say these things to me today? Chu Yang pondered and said, in the past you have never mentioned it. Meng Qiaoran smiled. He looked at the blood-red clouds in the sky and said lightly, Beyond the Heavens sect has many disciples, but everyone who practices the sword is purely practicing the sword, that is all. He stopped talking for a long time and then slowly said, but I saw you practicing the sword today, practicing the sword, practicing the Jianghu. Chu Yang was silent. Meng Qiaoran looked at the rising sun in the sky and let out a long breath. This breath was so long as if it had been suppressed in his heart for dozens of years. He looked at the eyes of the sun with a strange expression, as if he was reminiscing, but also as if he was in pain or disappointed. In short, his expression was very complicated, as if he was immersed in a dream, unable to extricate himself. Chu Yang was silent for a while and finally asked in a low voice, Master just said that protecting Beyond the Heavens sect is only one of your biggest wishes. But what other wishes do you have? If I have the chance, I will definitely do it for you. When he asked this, Meng Qiaoran's body trembled as if he had been electrocuted. His face suddenly turned pale as if he had recalled some painful past. He stood there in a daze, his eyes filled with confusion and pain, but he did not say a word, as if he had turned into a statue. After a long time, as if in a dream, he said in a low voice, Wind and rain cannot wash away the scars of the heart, the vicissitudes of life cannot extinguish the wounds of love. Do not speak lightly of the ancient times, only when separated can one see the desolation. His voice was very low, as if he was whispering, as if he was in a dream, as if he was crying. It was the kind of despair and helplessness that was suppressed to the point of eruption, but could not cry, an endless desolation. Hearing this voice in Chu Yang's ears, he clearly felt that his master had shattered his own heart in these short 20 words. This kind of feeling made Chu Yang suddenly think of the battle on the Wind Thunder platform in his previous life, when he was at the end of the road and had no hope of survival, and when he thought of Jianghu, that kind of sadness and heartbreak. Meng Qiaoran's current situation was actually similar to his own feelings of despair at that time. Could it be that Master had also experienced a life's regret? Presumably, it was this matter that made Meng Qiaoran not care about anything and did not care about anything, right? Wind and rain cannot wash away the scars of the heart, the vicissitudes of life cannot extinguish the wounds of love. Do not speak lightly of the ancient times, only when separated can one see the desolation. These were the first few lines of a poem that I wrote 3 years ago when I was lying on my sick bed. Outside the window the storm was raging. I really like these few lines. Meng Chao Ran's story was inspired by these 2 lines. Chapter 20. Zhu Yang's heart shook. When he raised his head again, Meng Ran's bleak figure with his hands behind his back had already quietly disappeared from his sight. Before he left, he actually didn't say anything to him, not even a single word. But that oppressive aura seemed to linger here and didn't dissipate for a long time. Zhu Yang was stunned for a while. He could faintly feel that Meng Ran's heart was very bitter, so bitter that he couldn't imagine it at all. What exactly happened to make this former genius of Beyond the Heavens sect become like this? If there was a chance, he would definitely untie this knot in his master's heart. Zhu Yang took a deep breath. His eyes focused and he pulled out his sword. Sword energy rushed to the heavens. This time he practiced from the beginning to the end. He practiced every move over and over again. He had already practiced drawing and sheathing the sword. Now he needs to practice the flow of the moves. He needs to combine the moves with the order of the moves. Then he needs to understand it carefully. Whether it was to protect Beyond the Heavens sect, to find Imo Qinggu, or to fulfill his master's other unspoken wish, he must have strength. If he didn't have enough strength, he would only become a target for others to fulfill their wishes. As for the purple crystal marrow, Zhu Yang just casually hung it around his neck. As long as he didn't use his vital energy, it was no different from an ordinary pendant. Zhu Yang's plan was that unless he completed a stage of cultivation, he wouldn't use the recovery ability in the purple crystal marrow. Just as Meng Ran said, not only was it not beneficial, it was harmful. Relying too much on external forces was not a good thing. Only by piling up sweat and accumulating it bit by bit with one's heart, would it be the most stable state and the deepest level of comprehension. If one blindly relied on external forces, even if one's strength increased, one would never reach the state. That would become one's life's regret, and it would never be able to make up for it. A martial great master had the mental state of a martial great master. Only after stopping at it, comprehending it and completely mastering it, could one logically enter revered martial great master. A martial great master, even if a windfall fell from the sky and suddenly obtained 10,000 years of pure strength, but without the corresponding mental state to complement it, he wouldn't become a supreme martial great master. He would still be a martial great master. He would just be a more abnormal martial great master. Therefore, every step had to be firm and solid. How could being thrown to the peak by others and climbing to the peak by oneself be the same? If he was thrown up, he would fall to his death. Time passed quickly. During lunchtime, Zhu Yang saw Shi Qianshan again. Right now, Shi Qianshan's complexion was ashen. He had no energy left. His face was full of worry and anxiety. Everyone knew that Li Jian's perverted behavior was not going to be forgotten so easily. As second martial uncle's disciple, even if it was just to flatter master, he still had to stand up for Li Jian. If they don't come now, it means those people are planning something, and it doesn't mean this matter is over. Tan Tan carelessly gnawed on the jelly. In fact, his hands were covered with oil. Zhu Yang was in a good mood. So he sat down and began to chew. Only Shi Qianshan had no appetite at all. He forced himself to eat, but the food tasted like wax. After a few bites he sighed. His gloomy eyes constantly swept over Zhu Yang. It seemed as if the faint anger in his eyes was about to burst out. Shi Qianshan, I heard that you are very powerful? It was said that he was the #1 expert of the younger generation. Ah, come out. Let's see and learn from each other. At this time a clamor came from outside the door. Then there was a burst of laughter. From the sound of it there were at least 7 or 8 people. Yes. This Shi Qianshan actually called himself the #1 expert of the younger generation of Beyond the Heavens sect. He really doesn't know how to write the word death. #1 expert? Does Shi Qianshan deserve it? Quickly come out and beg for mercy. The troublemakers had finally come. The evil fruit that Zhu Yang had planted for Shi Qianshan had exploded so early. Even Zhu Yang did not expect this. Shi Qianshan's face became pale. Then he fiercely looked at Zhu Yang. #1 expert of the younger generation. These words were shouted by Zhu Yang that day. At that time Shi Qianshan was very proud of himself. But later he realized that this was a quagmire that he could not get out of. But it was already too late. Now hearing these words, it was like a knife cutting his heart. Wonderful irony. And it was also the biggest problem of Beyond the Heavens sect. Which of the current 5th generation disciples was not allergic to the word #1? The position of the eldest disciple. The ownership of 7 Shades congregation grounds. Li Jian's fellow disciples did not dare to openly come to find trouble and avenge Li Jian. But Chu Yang's words of number one expert of the younger generation provided them with an excellent excuse. And the sect had always tacitly approved of this kind of competition between disciples. Shi Qianshan could imagine that there would be endless troubles coming to find him. Chu Yang lowered his head to eat as if he did not hear the cursing outside and did not see Shi Qianshan's bitter gaze. But in his heart he sneered, "Fuck, if I don't play you to death in this life, then I would be sorry for being reborn." The 8 young people outside were all dressed in black, but there was a red ribbon tied around their waists. On their cuffs there was also a red ribbon. This was the symbol of the Locking Clouds Peak disciples. Just like Chu Yang's purple bamboo garden, it was a purple ribbon. At this moment the 8 people were looking at Shi Qianshan, their eyes were filled with anger. Li Jian was Li Jinsong's only son. Normally he was spoiled. Naturally he did not get along well with his fellow disciples. But it was one thing to not get along well with them. He was bullied by outsiders. Although these people's hearts were not necessarily unhappy, it did not prevent them from using this as an excuse to vent their anger for Li Jian. This was a great opportunity to flatter. "So it is senior brother Lu and senior brother Chu who have personally come. Shi Qianshan did not go out to meet you." Although Shi Qianshan's face was ugly, he still respectfully bowed and said, "Shi Qianshan, I am not worthy of you calling me senior brother." Senior brother Lu laughed and said sharply, "You are the number one expert of the younger generation of Beyond the Heavens sect. With my insignificant cultivation, how could I dare to call you senior brother?" Sure enough, he used the title of number one expert of the younger generation to talk. Shi Qianshan's face became even uglier. In his heart he already hated Chu Yang to death. Now he suddenly remembered, could it be that when Chu Yang said those words, it was to give them an excuse? This senior brother Lu was about 30 years old. His name was Lu Yunyan. He was Li Jinsong's eldest disciple. As for senior brother Chu, his name was Chu Ping. He was 27 or 28 years old and ranked second. The remaining few people were all their junior brothers from the same sect. At this moment, hearing Lu Yunyan's words, they all roared with laughter. "Shi Qianshan, come. Let me see the ability of the number one expert." Chu Ping stepped forward and looked at Shi Qianshan. "How can I be senior brother Chu's opponent?" Shi Qianshan hurriedly declined. What a joke. How could he dare to fight now? Among the 8 people, Lu Yunyan was ranked higher than him. Chu Ping and the other outsider, although they were slightly lower, they were not far off. The other party deliberately came to find trouble. How could he let him off so easily? If he fought, he would probably be beaten into a pig's head. As for Tan Tan and Chu Yang, their martial power was low and could not be relied on. He was equivalent to fighting 8 people. Shi Qianshan wanted to cry. Shi Qianshan did not fight, but it did not mean that Chu Ping was going to waste time with him. Suddenly, with a clang, his long sword was unsheathed. In the midst of a dazzling white light, there was a pa sound followed by a piu sound, and then a piu sound. It turned out that Chu Ping did not give Shi Qianshan any chance to speak. He heavily slapped Shi Qianshan's face and kicked him in the stomach. This slap and kick were both powerful. Shi Qianshan did not dodge or avoid the attack. He only felt pain in his stomach and sat down on the ground. Shi Qianshan knew that as long as he did not fight back, being beaten by the opponent would not be a big deal. But if he fought back, it would be hard to say whether he could survive today. Therefore, facing the opponent's attack, he gritted his teeth and endured. "This bastard dared to hit me." Chu Ping, who was the one who hit Shi Qianshan, shouted angrily, "Fuck, it hurts." As expected of the number one expert of our Beyond the Heavens sect. "Brothers, we are in imminent danger. Quickly come and save us." "Oh no, second brother is at a disadvantage. Go. Quickly go and save second brother." Lu Yunyan's eyes flashed. He shouted in a very panicked manner. With a shout, immediately everyone rushed forward. They punched and kicked Shi Qianshan, who was on the ground as if he was a punching bag. The wind whistled as the punches landed on his chest. As they hit him, they shouted, "You dare to hit my second brother." We agreed on a fair fight. The Shi Qianshan actually used underhanded means. Beat this shameless person to death? There were even some people who shouted while fighting, "Shi Qianshan, you are relying on the fact that this is the purple bamboo garden. You stop. Second martial brother, are you alright?" Listening to this voice, it seemed that Chu Ping was about to be beaten to death. Chu Ping gritted his teeth and kicked Shi Qianshan again and again. At the same time he shouted miserably, "It hurts." It hurts. Shi Qianshan, you are so vicious. On the ground, Shi Qianshan was still screaming and begging for mercy. But slowly, with a few cracking sounds, his body curled up and he fainted. The 7 people were still angry. After beating for a while, they finally stopped. Everyone was panting. Chu Ping wiped his sweat and said, "That was close. I was almost killed by Shi Qianshan." Yes, this Shi Qianshan is really vicious. Someone at the side echoed. Tan Tan's eyes were red. But when he was about to rush out, he was stopped by Chu Yang. The opponent had so many people. Even if Tan Tan rushed out, it would be useless. He could only be beaten up like Shi Qianshan. Moreover, Shi Qianshan being beaten up was such a delightful scene. How could he ruin it? Chapter 21. As Shi Qianshan's master, how could Meng Ran not come out to take a look? But right now he was full of disappointment. When Meng Ran taught his disciples, he always had a principle: do your own thing. If you can't do it, I will help you. But you cannot do it. This was Meng Ran's principle. Today, if Shi Qianshan had a bit of backbone, a bit of manliness, he could really fight with the other side. Meng Ran would also immediately stand up for his little brother. Meng Ran could even directly fight in front of second martial brother's door. If your son is beaten, you need to find a reason. But if my disciple is beaten for nothing, is it for nothing? Meng Ran was already prepared. But looking at Shi Qianshan's slippery state, in order to save his life, he would rather be beaten than to fight back. If he is so cowardly, even if he is scheming, what can he do? If one day a strong enemy comes to attack, won't he have to kneel and surrender? There is a limit to enduring humiliation. I can stand up for you. But you need to have value for me to stand up for you. I can protect you for a while, but I can't protect you forever. You still have to go through the DNG and take responsibility for everything. This was Meng Ran's way of teaching his disciples. Although it was heartless, it was suitable for this. Jianghu. Courage. Although these 2 qualities were often said to be the path to death for young people, it was undeniable that without these 2 qualities, even if one lived for 10,000 years, it would be impossible to become a strong martial artist. Although he was lacking in courage, it was something he couldn't lack in order to become an expert of his generation. Meng Ran suddenly felt very disappointed with this little brother of his. So, he did not care anymore. In the purple bamboo forest on the opposite side of Meng Ran, there were also 2 people looking at this farce with gloomy faces. These 2 people were Beyond the Heavens Sect Master Wu Yunliang and Dream Cloud's Peak Master Kong Jingfeng. Why are they here? Moreover, he was actually watching a bunch of kids fight with relish? If Chu Yang knew that these 2 people were here, he would be very surprised. Looking at Shi Qianshan lying on the ground like a pile of mud, covered in blood and unconscious, Chu Ping and Lu Yunyan suddenly felt very bored. Originally, he thought that since Shi Qianshan was so arrogant and dared to hit Li Jian, it would be a fierce battle. Who would have thought that when they came here with great fanfare, they would encounter such a coward who actually allowed them to beat him up without even fighting back? He was worried that it would be bad if he killed him, so he prepared to leave. Just as he turned around and was about to walk back, a voice suddenly said slowly, "Hey, that I say, you're leaving just like that?" Lu Yunyan and the others stopped in their tracks. That person continued, cough. You 8 martial brothers fought against Shi Qianshan, yet you suffered such a great loss. Don't you think it's a bit inappropriate to leave like this? Lu Yunyan abruptly turned around and coldly stared at the person who had just spoken. In a dark voice he asked, You have a problem with that? The other 7 people also turned around and looked at the young man who had suddenly appeared. They were all somewhat astonished. When Shi Qianshan was beaten up in front of him, he didn't even make a sound. Why did he come out now that the matter was over? Could it be that he also wanted to be beaten up? Chu Yang gently smiled and said, Senior martial brother Chu came to my purple bamboo garden, yet suffered such a great loss. I feel very apologetic in my heart. His usually cold face suddenly had this kind of warm and friendly smile. It actually made him look like a god. Tan Tan at the side opened his mouth wide. Looking at Chu Yang's smiling face, it was as if he had seen a ghost. Heavens, your brother, have lived for more than 10 years. Today I actually saw Chu Yang smile. My life was not in vain. Tan Tan's heart rose and fell. At this moment he actually had the impulse to write a poem. On the other hand, Lu Yunyan and the others felt suffocated. Just a moment ago, these 8 people had ruthlessly beaten Shi Qianshan until he was half dead, yet their mouths were clamoring that they had suffered losses. It was as if it was Shi Qianshan who had single-handedly beaten the 8 of them. Now, as a member of the Purple Bamboo Garden, Chuyang was actually lying through his teeth. He inverted black and white and went along with what they said. This made them feel extremely depressed. Chuyang naturally did not stand up for Shi Qianshan. If this matter had happened somewhere else, he would have just watched from the sidelines, patted his butt and left. However, since he was born in the Purple Bamboo Garden, Chuyang could not let them leave. This was his master's territory. This was Meng Ran's face. Gathering Clouds Peak's younger brother beat up Meng Ran's younger brother in the Purple Bamboo Garden and then left as if nothing had happened. If this matter was spread out, one could imagine what kind of damage Meng Ran's reputation would receive. Of course, Meng Ran never cared about these things. However, Chuyang could not ignore it. In his previous life, Meng Ran had always been the person Chuyang respected the most. Since Shi Qianshan had already been beaten up according to his plan, then it was time for him to counterattack. These people came to the Purple Bamboo Garden to beat people. They must pay the price. In Chu Yang's view, this was completely different from them beating up Shi Qianshan. I don't know if this is considered killing a donkey after it has outlived its usefulness? Chuyang asked himself in his heart. He felt that he was being a little unreasonable. He could not help but rub his nose. Sigh, unreasonable, so be it. Killing a donkey after it has outlived its usefulness is just a bunch of donkeys. Furthermore, he could use Shi Qianshan to block the disaster. However, the current situation was that he had to obtain the sword point in the shortest time possible. He had to step on these people to get to the top. Since he had to step on them sooner or later, what was the harm in stepping on them earlier? What do you mean? Lu Yunyan waved his hand to stop his junior brothers from stepping forward. He looked at Chuyang with disdain. This person in front of him was at most a level 2 or 3 martial disciple. This kind of person, what kind of tricks could he play? There was no need to take it to heart. What I mean is, this is the Purple Bamboo Garden. Not the Locking Clouds Peak. Chuyang smiled warmly. However, his eyes shone like a blade. This is the Purple Bamboo Garden. So what? Lu Yunyan snorted. You are from the Locking Clouds Peak. Although we belong to the same sect, the Locking Clouds Peak is the Locking Clouds Peak. The Purple Bamboo Garden is the Purple Bamboo Garden. Chuyang said indifferently, you came to the Purple Bamboo Garden to cause trouble. Did the sect elders allow you to do so? What do you mean by cause trouble? Chu Ping glared and said, we only came to exchange pointers with junior brother Shi Qianshan. Isn't it normal for fellow disciples to exchange pointers? Yes, exchange pointers. Only exchange pointers. The rest of the people shouted. The word causing trouble could not be used on them. Exchange pointers. Beyond the Heavens sect's rules state that when exchanging pointers, the sect elders must be present. Since we are exchanging pointers, where are the sect elders? Chu Yang sneered and said, Beyond the Heavens sect's rules state that when exchanging pointers, the sect elders must be present to change the ranking on the spot. Where is the ranking list? Beyond the Heavens sect's rules state that when exchanging pointers, there must be a contract. Where is the contract? You. Chu Ping was speechless. They came this time because they knew that Meng Ran was in the Purple Bamboo Garden. When the time came, they only needed to report to Meng Ran and request to exchange pointers. It could be considered that there was an elder present. Everything would fall into place. Moreover, it could also earn a good reputation for Locking Clouds Peak. Look, although we are exchanging pointers in name, we are actually helping our junior brother vent his anger. However, the location was chosen in the Purple Bamboo Garden. Moreover, the only sect elder present was Martial Uncle Meng. Everything was carried out in front of his eyes, open and above board. Moreover, Li Jian had suffered such a big loss. If Locking Clouds Peak did not react, it would be strange. However, when they came here, they found that only Chu Yang and the other two were present. After a few words, they came to an impasse. Now that the fight was over, the other side stood up and demanded that everything be done according to the rules. Now, without an elder present, no matter what, this matter could not be justified. Nonsense. Today's matter was provoked by Shi Qianshan. He beat up my senior brother Chu. Senior brother Chu defended himself. That's why. One of the youths rolled his eyes and shouted rudely. Chu Yang looked at him coldly and said, if that's the case, then senior brother Chu is injured? His injury is not light? Of course. The youth's face turned red, but he said firmly, look, senior brother Chu's waist is injured. There are also wounds on his chest. His whole body is covered with cuts and bruises. Oh? So, today was not a spar? Chu Yang tilted his head with interest. Your face is so red. Did you do something wrong? Of course it was not a spar. Chu Ping braced himself and said stutteringly. Just a moment ago they were all shouting that it was a spar. However, under Chu Yang's sharp words, they immediately changed their words and said that it was not a spar. So, when you go back you will say the same thing? Chu Yang asked with a smile. Of course we will speak the truth. The sect has been very kind to us. How could we lie? When Chu Ping said this his face could not help but turn red. But that's not very appropriate. Look, you've suffered such a big loss, but you don't even have a single injury on your body. Isn't that too unreasonable? Chu Yang said sincerely, Senior brother Chu, how about I help you? You help me? Chu Ping's pupils shrank. How can you help me? I can help you. I can make a few wounds on your body. Chu Yang smiled sincerely. Senior brother Chu, I am thinking for you. When you go back and tell the elders that you are not injured, they will definitely think that you are lying. Then you will definitely be punished. How about you let me cut you a few times, punch you a few times, or kick you gently? What do you think? Ha ha ha. Chu Ping laughed and looked at Chu Yang with disdain. You are Chu Yang, right? Before we came, junior brother Li repeatedly told us that we can deal with Shi Qianshan, but we must leave Chu Yang to himself. Ah, that is why I let you go. Now you actually want to help me? Ah, with your insignificant skills, how can you help me? Whether I can help or not, I will have to try. Chu Yang said warmly. Maybe senior brother Chu will suddenly go crazy and stand still for me to hit. Wouldn't that be easy? Chapter 22. Hearing Chu Ping's question, the boys and girls behind him all laughed. Everyone knew that among the 8 peaks in one garden of Beyond the Heavens sect, the 8 peaks occupied the top 10 positions. Purple Bamboo Garden's oldest brother, Shi Qianshan, was only ranked 13th. As for the other 2 brothers, they were both ranked below the 700th rank. They were practically the last. Chu Yang Tan. Now this unworthy person actually wanted to challenge Chu Ping, who was in the top 20. With a difference of more than 700 ranks, this was simply asking for death. Chu Yang also laughed. His laughter was very normal but very cold. It was summer and the weather was hot, but when Chu Yang laughed, it was like a cold wind blowing down from the peak of a snowy mountain. Everyone felt cold all over. Chu Yang's eyes became cold as he slowly said, Purple Bamboo Garden's prestige is not something you can offend. The rules of Beyond the Heavens sect are not something you can break. Chu Ping, today I will use you to establish my prestige. Sooner or later, I will step on these people and become the #1 brother. Then today will be the beginning. Today's battle will be the first battle of my rise in Beyond the Heavens sect. I, Chu Yang, have always stood at the top of the wind and welcomed other people's challenges. Now, after my rebirth, although I am at the bottom, my bones are still at the top. It is lonely at the top. A 3rd-level martial disciple wants to establish his prestige by challenging a 2nd-level martial warrior? Without a doubt, this matter was a huge joke. The people behind Chu Ping immediately roared with laughter. They looked at Chu Yang as if they were looking at an idiot. Trash, you want to establish your prestige? And you want to use senior brother Chu to establish your prestige? Are you crazy? This guy is crazy. Junior brother Chu, you and Chu Yang fight. Lu Yunyan, who had led the team, stared at Chu Yang's eyes and slowly said, Don't underestimate your opponent. His cultivation was higher than Chu Ping's, and his spiritual perception was also much sharper. Previously when Chu Yang came out he was smiling and talking so he did not feel anything. But now that Chu Yang's aura had changed, Lu Yunyan suddenly felt a cold pressure on his face. The contempt in Lu Yunyan's heart suddenly disappeared without a trace, like a snowflake encountering the scorching sun. At this moment, the way he looked at Chu Yang was simply a little frightened. As soon as Lu Yunyan said the words "Don't underestimate the enemy," the surrounding laughter suddenly disappeared. This clearly indicated that Lu Yunyan was not optimistic about Chu Ping's chances in the battle between Chu Yang and Chu Ping. Lu Yunyan was one of the top 10 disciples of the Beyond the Heavens sect's 5th generation. Although he was at the bottom, his strength was already extraordinary. He was already a grade 4 martial warrior. Such a person would naturally have a discerning eye. Although Chu Ping was only a 2nd-grade martial warrior, compared to Chu Yang who was a 3rd-grade martial disciple, the difference was like heaven and earth. Warrior against martial disciple, elite against trash. Was there any suspense in this battle? Chu Yang smiled calmly. He took a step forward and said, Chu Ping, come. Come and get from me the reason why you got away with lying. Chu Ping roared and suddenly pounced forward, throwing out a punch. His movements were agile just like a leopard on the hunt. He saw that Chu Yang did not take out a weapon, so he was naturally embarrassed to draw his sword first. Chu Yang was about to move when his eyes suddenly flashed. At this moment he had a feeling that he was being spied on. It was as if his every move was being watched by someone in the dark. This was the strong spiritual sense that he had cultivated in his previous life. This spiritual sense had helped him escape countless life and death situations. Today this feeling rose again. However, he could not feel the killing intent of the person in the dark. It seemed that there was no malicious intent. Chu Yang's heart was moved. He already had some guesses about the identity of the person in the dark. He thought to himself, since this is a heaven-sent opportunity, I might as well give you a surprise. He did not look around. His face was expressionless, but his footwork had already begun, and he rushed towards Chu Ping. His movements were obviously normal, but in the eyes of others, it was indescribably strange. Chu Yang's upper body did not move, but his body also seemed to be rushing forward. However, Chu Ping found that even after rushing a few feet, he still could not touch Chu Yang's clothes. In the eyes of others, Chu Yang's body was clearly charging forward. But in reality he was retreating. He looked like he was really in an offensive state, but his basic movements were really dodging. Under his feet, his 2 feet maintained the posture of taking large strides forward, moving nimbly. This strange phenomenon completely subverted everyone's understanding. In the bamboo forest, Meng Ran opened his mouth wide. He was about to cry out in surprise, but he suddenly realized something and closed his mouth. His upper and lower teeth clenched together, and with a smacking sound, Meng Ran felt a sharp pain in his cheeks. But Meng Ran did not feel it at all. He only opened his eyes wide, looking at Chu Yang, who was moving around freely like flowing water. His eyes were full of shock. At the same time, in the bamboo forest on the other side, 2 cold gasps could be heard. The sound was so loud that it almost sucked their surroundings into a vacuum. Chu Yang's dodging action immediately caused the 3 people who were watching from the shadows to be extremely shocked. The 3 people stared at Chu Yang's movements without blinking, their eyes full of passion. Snow in the clouds, graceful in the sky, advancing and retreating, advancing and returning. Everyone present was very familiar with this set of footwork. Beyond the Heaven sect's fleeting snow cloud footwork. Every generation of disciples practiced it and everyone knew it. Even the servants who boiled water could use it a few times. But no one had ever been able to achieve the effect that Chu Yang had. Fleeting snow cloud footwork was created by the founder of Beyond the Heavens sect. That year, this founder was on the peak of a mountain, bathing in the rare warm sunlight of winter. He was about to rest, but when he lay down he saw that the clouds in the sky were pure white, and the color of the snow on the ground was also reflected by the sunlight, shooting into the sky. The snow and the clouds reflected each other, and were unexpectedly ever-changing. There was no wind in the sky, but the clouds in the sky seemed to be moving forward, and also seemed to be retreating, and also seemed to be spreading, and also seemed to be condensing. It was impossible to see whether it was moving forward or backward, but when he looked, the clouds had unknowingly moved away. This founder seemed to have understood something and buried his head in thought. 2 years later he created a set of footwork, and named it Fleeting Snow Cloud Footwork, to commemorate the inspiration that the heavens and earth gave him. This founder used this set of footwork to run rampant in the world, and when combined with sword moves he rarely lost. It could be said that his fame was illustrious. Even enemies who were far more powerful than him would not be able to hurt him. But after him, no one could learn this set of fleeting snow cloud footwork. Even if they used their own internal energy to cultivate, they could not achieve the same effect as the founder. It could not attack the enemy nor could it protect oneself. Instead, it became a martial art. It was useless to practice it, but it was a pity to abandon it. Everyone thought that the founder must have made a mistake. Or it could be said that he did not leave behind the true secret. This matter became one of Beyond the Heavens sect's biggest regrets. But they did not expect that after a few hundred years, the true essence of this set of footwork would reappear on Chu Yang. How did he do it? Chu Ping crazily attacked, but he could not even touch the corner of Chu Yang's clothes. The more he fought, the angrier he became. He was a second-level martial warrior, but he could not beat a third-level martial disciple? His martial brothers were all watching from the side. How could he lose so much face? Chu Ping was flustered and exasperated. He was just about to pull out his sword, but when he pulled back his hand, a shadow flashed in front of him, and Chu Yang was already in front of him. Chu Ping was shocked, and before he could dodge he heard a bang sound as his nose was punched. Blood immediately flowed from his nose, and under the pain of his nose, tears flowed out. Be good, don't cry, I am doing this for your own good. Chu Yang gently comforted him, but his hands were merciless. His body flashed like a fish, and with two bang sounds Chu Ping's left eye and right eye were both heavily punched. Chapter 23. Chu Ping was so angry that he almost fainted. His opponent's martial power was not as good as his. If his martial power was the same as his, he would have been knocked down to the ground by those 3 punches. His opponent's 3 punches clearly contained his full strength, but he only suffered superficial wounds. This proved that his opponent's martial power was not high. His opponent was much weaker than him. But he was at a disadvantage. What kind of logic was this? Chu Ping was furious. His opponent's words were as if he was coaxing a child. But he actually shed tears. This made him so ashamed that he wanted to die. With a loud roar and a clang, his sword was unsheathed. The wind whistled. His first move was a killing move. Lu Yunyan shouted in his heart, "Not good." Although he did not understand what was going on, but looking at the current situation, Chu Yang's footwork was exquisite, and Chu Ping's mind was in a mess. He was definitely not his opponent. This move of his had placed him in an extremely dangerous situation. If he did not attack, his opponent would not attack either. In that case, even if he were to suffer a few punches and kicks, with his martial arts that were much stronger than his opponent's, suffering a few punches would be completely harmless, and nothing major would happen. But when he drew his sword, his opponent could naturally draw his sword as well. At that time, it would not be as simple as suffering a few punches and kicks. Silver light flashed, sword shadows swayed. Chu Ping's face was dark, and his face was full of murderous intent. He madly rushed forward. Chu Yang's eyes revealed a trace of murderous intent. Although you are not a good person, you beat up Shi Qianshan. This made my mood very good. I originally thought that I would not be too harsh on you, but you actually want to kill me? You are courting death. Chu Yang was still empty-handed. He constantly moved and dodged the sword shadows. Chu Ping's sword was like falling petals, but it could not even touch the corner of his clothes. But a biting cold murderous intent was growing stronger and stronger. Chu Ping shouted and suddenly leaped up, his sword flashing as he descended from the sky. Inverted Milky Way. This was one of the sword techniques of Beyond the Heavens sect. It was a powerful killing move. Only those who had entered the ranks of martial warriors were qualified to practice this set of sword techniques. Chu Yang snorted. His body suddenly moved forward instead of retreating. He lowered his body and jumped out close to the ground. This was the fatal flaw of the inverted heavenly river move. Due to the leap, the lower body would be empty and there would be a lot of space. When Chu Ping made his move, he saw that there was no trace of his opponent in front of him. Just as he was thinking that something was wrong, he suddenly heard a soft sound behind him. What was that sound? Behind him, where he couldn't see, there was a flash of sword light. Chu Yang had not drawn his sword all this time, but at this critical moment he drew his sword. Just as Chu Ping was pondering, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back. Following that, his left leg, left shoulder and right shoulder felt excruciating pain at the same time. Chu Ping screamed and fell from the sky. Fresh blood spurted out from his back, left shoulder, left leg and right leg. Apart from the wound on his back that only pierced his flesh, the rest of his body was pierced with holes from the back to the front. Absolute silence. Everyone recognized this move of Chu Yang's. It was just an ordinary move of backhand 5 plum blossoms. It was the introductory sword technique of Beyond the Heavens sect. It was nothing special. It was used to strengthen the body and build the foundation. But the problem was, the timing of this sword strike was simply too perfect. Just as Chu Ping was about to jump up and strike down like a thunderbolt, Chu Yang was already behind him. Without looking back, Chu Yang backhand 5 plum blossoms was like a practice target. Every strike was as accurate as a textbook. Chu Yang's movements were light, and he took the initiative. Coupled with his fast movements, his sword was almost silent. The friction between the sword and the scabbard only made a slight sound. Chu Ping did not expect that this sound was the sound of a sword being unsheathed. Moreover, all of his attention was focused on what was in front of him. Who would have thought that the enemy would be behind him in an instant? Chu Ping screamed. He desperately turned his body and threw his sword behind him. Now he did not want to win. He only wanted to die together with his opponent. The sword was like a ray of light flashing by. But it did not hit its target. It flew straight into the purple bamboo forest. No one on the scene cared about where the sword flew to. But Kong Jingfeng, who was in the purple bamboo forest, was enjoying the show. At the same time he was thinking about Chu Yang's fleeting snow cloud steps. He did not have time to react. The sword was already in front of him. With a sound, it pierced through his robe and nailed to the ground. Kong Jingfeng stared dumbfoundedly at the small half of the shining sword. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. His eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. In an instant even his back was cold. The long sword was right between his legs. It was less than a finger's distance away from the man's vital part. Even his underwear was pierced through. The lump in his crotch was desperately curled up into a ball, but he could still feel the cold intent of the long sword. Kong Jingfeng's face was pale. Finally he could not help but whisper, This is really a blessing from the heavens." Chu Yang twisted his body and dodged the long sword flying towards him. Activating his fleeting snow cloud steps, he closed in on Chu Ping like a flash of lightning. His right palm suddenly emitted a gloomy and cold fog. With a bone-chilling coldness, he struck Chu Ping's back with lightning speed. Bang! It was a solid hit. With one hit, Chu Yang spun around and was already standing 3 feet away. The moment the palm hit, the 3 people in the purple bamboo forest could clearly see the cold air coming out of Chu Yang's palm. At the same time, they widened their eyes and opened their mouths. They almost screamed out loud. Chu Ping flew into the air like a rubber ball. Then he fell to the ground like a lump of rotten meat. He screamed out loud. His whole body was in so much pain that it spasmed. He rolled around on the ground and was sweating profusely. When he was in the air, blood was still spurting out. But the moment he landed, his body was covered with a layer of white frost at a speed visible to the naked eye. An inexplicable cold air froze his wounds. Blood could not flow out. Seeing Chu Ping rolling on the ground in such a miserable state, Lu Yunyan and the others were dumbfounded. They felt as if they were dreaming. No one would have thought that Chu Yang's sword would be so ruthless. The palm at the back did not matter. But the sword at the front was equivalent to crippling Chu Ping. A faint smile flashed across Chu Yang's face. He was forced to use the sword. But the fleeting snow cloud movement technique in the palm had an ulterior motive. The movement technique was for Chu Ping to dodge, but it was for someone in the dark to see. The goal of that palm strike and the frigidine energy contained within was the Seven Shades Congregation grounds. Seven Shades Absolute God Palm. It was a secret technique of Beyond the Heavens sect. It was also the most powerful martial technique. The main reason for the successive sect masters to enter the Seven Shades congregation was to use the extreme cold of the Seven Shades to practice the Seven Shades Absolute God Palm. When Chu Yang used the palm, it was not to attack Chu Ping. At that time, Chu Ping had already lost the ability to resist. What was the use of another palm? The real reason was to tell the person in the dark that he was one step ahead of the others. As for why he was one step ahead, Chu Yang believed that his master, Meng Chao Ran, would naturally clean up his mess. He had absolute confidence in this. Chu Yang, you are so vicious. Lu Yunyan looked at Chu Ping, who was writhing on the ground in pain. His eyes twitched. Then he raised his head and looked at Chu Yang. He gnashed his teeth and said, "You dare to be so cruel to your fellow disciple." Chu Yang sneered. His long sword was slanted. On the tip of the sword, a drop of blood slowly dripped down. Looking at the direction of the sword tip, it was the unconscious Shi Qianshan. Everyone was speechless. Chu Ping was a fellow disciple. Was Shi Qianshan not? After all, they were the ones who struck first. They had beaten Shi Qianshan into such a state. With the example of their predecessors, how could they blame Chu Yang for being merciless? Chu Yang smiled coldly and said, "First, it was you who came to Purple Bamboo Garden to cause trouble without the permission of the sect. Second, it was you who beat up the people of my Purple Bamboo Garden first. Third, everyone had already said clearly that I was only helping senior brother Chu. Everyone can't be so forgetful, right? Help, help." Looking at the badly mutilated Chu Ping, who had lost half of his life, everyone could not help but shudder. Help, help like this. Chapter 24. Sai, to tell you the truth regarding the matter of senior brother Li Jian 2 days ago, us 3 brothers are also very guilty. Chu Yang let out a long sigh and said emotionally, "Therefore, regarding your visit today, our senior brother did not resist and allowed you to vent your anger. It can be considered as giving you an excuse for that matter." He said resentfully, "But, you should not have caused trouble in Purple Bamboo Garden like this and be so arrogant. Let me ask you, by doing this, where is the prestige of Purple Bamboo Garden? We are all from the same sect. The red flower mantis is a family. Why do you have to be so bitter? Chu Yang's expression unexpectedly became very sad and angry. Hitting people is fine, but you still want to pretend to be the victim. How can you be so shameless? When these words came out, everyone in front of him was dumbfounded and almost vomited blood. The three people in Purple Bamboo Garden who were secretly watching also suddenly felt their blood rushing to their heads. How can a person be so shameless to this extent? Even if you took advantage of others, you should not act like this. You see, my martial arts have easily defeated Chu Ping. Then what about my senior brother Shi Qianshan's martial arts? He is many times stronger than me. Chu Yang angrily said, Senior brother's martial arts are far superior to yours, but he did not resist and let you vent your anger. What else do you want? Do you have to kill him? When these words came out, Lu Yunyan and the others looked at the unconscious Shi Qianshan with fear in their eyes. That's right, junior brother's martial arts have already reached perfection. As senior brother Shi Qianshan, how can he be weak? It seems that in this competition for the position of senior brother, Shi Qianshan will become a strong opponent for everyone. Today you hurt one of my people and I also helped you a lot. Although we suffered some losses, I returned evil for good. Moreover, we are all from the same sect. What can't be done? This matter, why don't we just let it go like this? Chu Yang said magnanimously, for the sake of second martial uncle, I won't haggle over this matter. Lu Yunyan and the others only saw stars in front of their eyes. He almost couldn't breathe and fainted on the spot. You've already beaten him until he's half dead, and you actually have the face to say, let's just let this matter go. Furthermore, you're speaking in a tone as if you've given him a great grace, and you're actually doing it for the sake of second martial uncle. Of course, if you senior brothers and junior brothers also want me to help, I won't refuse. I have always believed that helping others is a virtue. I have always remembered the teachings of this sect. Chu Yang smiled guiltily. I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I'm just like this. I'm used to helping others. I'll help others when they're in need, and I'll help others when they're in trouble. Especially for my fellow disciples of the same sect. We're all one family. I'll help them even if I have to sacrifice my life. Lu Yunyan and the rest looked at Chu Ping on the ground and shuddered violently. You're helping me? Help your ass. We're not stupid. Everyone's gaze was fixed on Lu Yunyan's face. It was obvious that they were waiting for his decision. But Lu Yunyan was in a difficult position. Although he was ranked in the top 10, and his martial power was far above Chu Ping's, after watching Chu Yang's battle, he knew that he was definitely not Chu Yang's opponent. Such a strange way of fighting. If it were him, he would also suffer a great loss. If he were to step forward and also be defeated, then it would be a heavy blow to his sect that would be unbearable. Plus, he couldn't afford to lose face like this. Chu Yang, good move. Today's matter, let's just let it go. Lu Yunyan thought for a moment, and made a prompt decision. He said gloomily, the mountains don't move, the water moves. The 8th generation of Beyond the Heavens sect's ranking tournament is about to begin. At that time, our Gathering Clouds Peak and Purple Bamboo Garden will meet. At that time we'll fight it out in front of the entire sect. Let's go. The 7 people picked up Chu Ping and went back the way they came. Before they left, they looked at Chu Yang's eyes, but there was a different meaning. Fear, dread, everyone was fighting in the same sect who would really be ruthless. Even if they hit Shi Qianshan, they would still have a sense of propriety. They wouldn't kill him, nor would they cripple him. They would only break a few ribs and let him suffer a little to avenge their own people. But when Chu Yang attacked, his hands and feet were pierced. This kind of determination and ruthlessness was a method that no one dared to use. Chu Yang looked at the 7 people's figures as they left. His face was very gloomy and his eyes were very heavy. In this battle, Chu Yang had obtained a complete victory. His victory was indisputable. But no one knew that Chu Yang had found his own weakness in this battle. In this battle, Chu Yang relied completely on his skills and experience. Chu Yang's skills and experience were decades ahead of Lu Yunyan, Chu Ping, and the others. Every time his opponent made a move, he was able to take a step ahead of them and take the initiative to counter them. He had the absolute advantage. Chu Yang had always thought that although their martial power was higher than his, with his experience and skills, defeating them was absolutely not difficult. But in this battle he knew that he was wrong. Skills and experience were not everything. For example, when Chu Ping attacked with his sword in a rage, Chu Yang knew that as long as he put his finger 3 or 4 fingers behind the tip of the sword, he would be able to push the sword to one side, leaving him wide open. Then he would step forward and fiercely kick his dantian. In fact, he did so. But when his finger touched it and even half of his palm touched it, he fiercely tried to push it away, but it did not move at all. Although Chu Ping was only a second-level martial warrior, he was much stronger than Chu Yang, a third-level martial disciple. With Chu Yang's martial power, even if he used his skills to break it, he would not be a match for Chu Ping. So Chu Yang was forced to use his sword. Because with his martial power, he could not cause any harm to Chu Ping with his fists and feet. From an outsider's point of view, Chu Yang's fleeting snow cloud movement technique was ever-changing and his movements were elegant and graceful. It seemed that he had plenty of time to deal with Chu Ping. However, no one knew that Chu Yang's heart was heavy. Even Chu Ping himself did not know how many times Chu Yang had tested him and changed his strategy in this short fight. Being able to force Chu Yang to use his sword was already Chu Ping's pride. Even after using his sword, Chu Yang did not dare to show mercy. Once he showed mercy, he would suffer from the opponent's crazy counterattack. At that time, he would have already used his sword and would not be able to block it. Fleeting snow cloud steps, when practiced to a proficient level, once used, others would not be able to attack him. But when he attacked others, there would definitely be a flaw. Chu Ping could not grasp such an opportunity, but it did not mean that others could not. Dodging was absolutely ingenious, but blindly dodging would never allow one to win. The only way to win was to attack. But once he attacked, he could not maintain a flawless state. There would definitely be a flaw. Everything was mutual. When you attack the opponent's vital point, your own vital point would also be under the opponent's attack. Chu Yang's heart trembled. His eyes flashed with eagerness. Power. Power was the most important thing. Skills were only useful when used against opponents of the same level or not too different. But in the face of absolute power, skills were a joke. And power was what Chu Yang lacked the most right now. Tan Tan stood on the side, watching in a daze. At this moment he suddenly shouted excitedly, "Chu Yang, you are really too handsome." After thinking for a while he added, "Except that you are a little bit worse than me, handsome, humph humph." Chu Yang snorted, "Tan Tan, from tomorrow onwards, I will wake you up every morning to practice martial arts with me. I hope that one day I will also be as handsome as you." Tan Tan's face suddenly became bitter. He bitterly said, You are more handsome than me, is that not enough?" Chu Yang smiled and said, "Tan Tan, you see, the current Beyond the Heavens sect is full of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. They can be provoked but can't be supported. Now the sect is about to start a big competition. We will choose the successor of Beyond the Heavens sect from these people." Chu Yang's voice was slightly louder. It seemed that he was deliberately saying this for someone to hear. His tone was thick with ridicule. He sneered as if he was referring to something. The heavy burden of Beyond the Heavens sect will fall on these people sooner or later. But can these people protect Beyond the Heavens sect? I am afraid that the destruction of the sect is right in front of them. Tan Tan, I hope that you can stand up and protect yourself. Don't be implicated by others and lose your life. Chapter 25. Tan Tan didn't understand what Chu Yang meant when he saw that Chu Yang had suddenly become so serious. But he still nodded in confusion. Chu Yang smiled slightly and carried Shi Qianshan with Tan Tan walking through the door. Shi Qianshan was still unconscious. He did not know anything about what happened afterwards. He also did not know that after this battle, he had become famous among the younger brothers of Beyond the Heavens sect. After Lu Yunyan and the others returned, they immediately spread the news. Shi Qianshan had hidden his strength well, and was a formidable opponent of this generation's 10 great brothers. As a junior brother, Chu Yang could defeat Chu Ping, then as a senior brother, Shi Qianshan. What about him? After seeing Chu Ping's injuries, the 8th-generation younger brothers who were eyeing the position of the 10 great brothers covetously immediately listed Shi Qianshan as a dangerous person. Fire, theft, Shi Qianshan, 3 defenses. The muddle-headed Shi Qianshan would never have thought that he would actually become a big shot of Beyond the Heavens sect while he was muddle-headed. It could be seen that nothing was absolute in this world, and a person's fame was full of opportunities. Who knew when his fame would spread far and wide? Chu Yang's keen intuition had already sensed that there was definitely someone watching this scene in the bamboo forest. Although he did not know who it was, he was certain that it was the upper echelon of Beyond the Heavens sect. His master Meng Ran was definitely there, and he was only one of them. Therefore, when Chu Yang said those thoughtless words to Tan Tan, the meaning of those words was naturally to warn Tan Tan, but in the ears of those 3 people, it had a different meaning. Beyond the Heavens sect could not be supported by these useless people. But I, Chuyang, can do it. Since he had decided to seize the position of the eldest brother and enter Seven Shades congregation grounds to obtain the Calamity Sword, then his words and actions must be known by the upper echelons. Otherwise, he could only be like in his previous life, waiting until 4 years later when Beyond the Heavens sect was destroyed to obtain it. What was the point of that? Since he had openly entered the eyes of the upper echelons, then even if he wanted to be low-key he could not. He might as well make his intentions clear, pat his chest and say, to revitalize Beyond the Heavens sect and protect the sect, if not me then who? Crazy? Yes, this time I will be crazy. What? Chuyang and Tan Tan went in for a long time. Then the bamboo forest slowly swayed. Then, 3 figures miraculously appeared in the purple sea. Each of them had a pensive look in their eyes. Chuyang's last few words seemed to be implying something. Meng Ran moved and silently appeared in front of the 2 of them. He smiled and said, "Eldest senior brother, 7th senior brother, you came to the purple bamboo garden in such a low-key manner. You really surprised me." One of them was the sect master of Beyond the Heavens sect, Wu Yinliang, and the other was the master of Dream Cloud's peak, Kong Jingfeng. But Kong Jingfeng's face is still pale. There's a hole in his crotch and the wind is blowing in. This peak master of Dream Clouds had no choice but to clamp his legs together. It's a weird position. We should be the ones who are truly shocked. Wu Yunliang snorted and said, "Junior Marshal Brother O, it's fine if you keep a low profile, but you didn't even tell me that you taught such a talented Junior Marshal Brother? Just now, I was almost scared to death by your disciple." Kong Jingfeng nodded repeatedly, showing his approval of Wu Yunliang's words. He added, "Especially me, I was scared out of my wits." There was a hint of hidden bitterness in his words. Chuyang's performance just now, no matter what, was enough to surprise these 2 experts of Beyond the Heavens sect. It was even shocking. The fleeting snow cloud footwork that was as agile as a swimming dragon, as graceful as a swan, as the fleeting snow cloud footwork that came and went like a ghost, as well as the killing blow that came and went like a ghost. His calm handling of the situation, and his ability to grasp the right timing, all of these made these 2 important people of Beyond the Heavens sect extremely surprised. The 2 of them asked themselves, if they had the same martial power as Chuyang and were in the same situation today, they would not have been able to do what Chuyang did so easily. This junior martial brother of Meng Ran's was incredible. Meng Ran smiled bitterly and said, "You guys were only shocked to the point of almost falling to the ground. Junior martial brother O, on the other hand, was so shocked that his teeth were about to fall to the ground. You guys see, my eyes are red, but I still can't believe that such a monster appeared in my sect." As he said this, he rolled his eyes with a gloomy face. Wu Yunliang and Kong Jingfeng both laughed. Suddenly, Kong Jingfeng was shocked as he understood Meng Ran's meaning. "You are saying that your disciples' martial arts were not taught by you?" Meng Ran rolled his eyes. He wanted to deny it, but in the end he sighed and said, "I taught him all this, but even I am afraid." Only then did the 2 turn pale with fright. Since Chuyang was able to learn something that others could not, then there was only one explanation: talent. Unparalleled talent. Wu Yunliang originally thought that Meng Ran had grasped the true cultivation method of the fleeting snow cloud footwork and was full of joy. Hearing Meng Ran's words, he was stunned. After a while he stuttered, "Could it be that the fleeting snow cloud footwork?" Meng Ran nodded and said, "I did not learn it myself." Wu Yunliang and Kong Jingfeng were both stunned. Could it be that he learned it himself? Wu Yunliang twirled his beard. His hand trembled, almost pulling out a strand of hair. "I don't know." Meng Ran sighed, "But this disciple of mine is extremely intelligent. I don't know if he learned it himself." The 2 of them were shocked speechless. Meng Ran spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders, making a helpless expression. Normally, the 3 of them were very serious in front of the other disciples, but in private they were very relaxed. "No matter what, these 3 disciples of yours." Wu Yunliang pondered for a while, then said, "They really have an amazing talent." Saying this, he smiled bitterly and said, "With this guy's cultivation he definitely would not have noticed that I was peeping here." But his last few words were clearly directed at me, the sect leader. Until now, I still do not understand why it was like this. Yes, they have a genius, but they also have a trash. Meng Ran said this with a strange expression. He did not like Shi Qianshan, but he did not like Shi Qianshan's way of doing things. It did not mean that he did not like Shi Qianshan as a person. In Meng Ran's heart he did not have any hope for Shi Qianshan. Defeating the enemy fair and square is a victory, but using underhanded tactics to kill the enemy, is that not a victory? The only difference is the process. Maybe Shi Qianshan can walk the path of Jianghu's underhanded schemes? But today Shi Qianshan could have fought, but he was afraid of the opponent and did not fight back. This made Meng Ran's last hope for him extinguish. A hero can be low-key, but a coward will never become a strong person. Trash? You mean Shi Qianshan? Wu Yunliang's eyes flashed with disdain. He smiled non-committally. It seemed that this Beyond the Heavens sect leader did not have a good impression of Shi Qianshan. Meng Ran sighed slightly. Beyond the Heavens sect has nearly 800 disciples. Which sect does not have a few unworthy disciples? Junior Martial Brother, you do not need to take it to heart. After the first round of elimination, talents will always stand out. Mediocre or trash, they will all become a pile of bones. Wu Yunliang's eyes were deep. He slowly said, Junior Martial Brother, having Chu Yang as your disciple is enough to make up for all your regrets. Your second brother Chu Yang's methods are ruthless, decisive and meticulous. What's rarest is that he's able to say that it's not right. Moreover, he's able to speak with conviction and confidence. He's a rare talent. He's not simple. Kong Jingfeng nodded deeply, expressing his agreement. Today the two of them came together to see what Li Jinsong's brothers were going to do. However, their main purpose was to see the hole that tripped Li Jian up. Once again he calculated the position to be completely sure. Was it true that Beyond the Heavens sect had produced such a genius, whose mind and methods were all first class? After listening to Wu Qianshan's report, they already suspected that Chu Yang was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? But for an 8th-generation disciple to have such a keen eye and rich experience, the two of them still did not believe it. That was why they came to investigate. But today, seeing Chu Yang deal with Chu Ping, the two of them understood. There was no need to investigate. It was definitely him. This guy called Chu Yang was definitely a dangerous person. The current Beyond the Heavens sect had internal and external troubles. They really needed talents. Especially talents from the younger generation. That was why Wu Yunliang valued Chu Yang. And what Chu Yang wanted was this kind of respect. Otherwise, why would he spend so much effort on it? Chapter 26. When Meng Ran heard Wu Yunliang praising Chu Yang, he was feeling complacent. But when he heard Wu Yunliang's words, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Eldest Martial Brother, you are really in the mood. At this time you are still talking nonsense. You can't make me cry, right? Wu Yunliang's mouth seemed to be witty, but his face was very serious. He slowly said, This Chu Yang, you need to train him well. Our Beyond the Heavens sect has too few people like him. Meng Ran nodded and sighed, There is nothing we can do about it. Ever since we were stripped of our title as the Great Zhao Empire's national protector sect, we have lost a lot of strength. We have no one in the court, the government discriminates against us, and the other sects bully us. Even if we have a few talents, they are either taken away or killed on the spot. Beyond the Heavens sect is already in a precarious situation. If we cannot protect our own talents, I am afraid that after our generation, Beyond the Heavens sect will no longer exist. Meng Ran's words were a serious reminder and warning. Wu Yunliang's gloomy face revealed a bitter smile. He looked at Kong Jingfeng and said with a smile, You are the youngest. Are you afraid that we will sell off your favorite disciples? Meng Ran snorted and said, We have to be careful. The current Beyond the Heavens sect is no longer the same as before. Wu Yunliang sighed and said, I know that you have always been dissatisfied with the martial arts competition of the sect's younger disciples. It is true that Beyond the Heavens sect is declining day by day. Holding this kind of competition is undoubtedly exposing our outstanding disciples to the enemy. It increases the chances of them dying, but this is something we have to do. Meng Ran clasped his hands behind his back and snorted softly, You just want to maintain the customs of Beyond the Heavens sect. If you cannot make up your mind to change, what is the point of us talking about it? Meng Ran had always been calm. Wu Yunliang had only heard such a cold tone a few times in the dozens of years that they had been in the same sect. Hearing him say this, he knew that Junior Martial Brother was dissatisfied. Slightly sighing, Wu Yunliang said seriously, If I want to change, it is only a matter of a few words from me. The reason why I still maintain the sect's rules is because I want to refine real gold in a fire. Wu Yunliang's face became cold. He slowly said, The 8th generation of Beyond the Heavens sect has 800 disciples. Our seventh generation has 70. There were less than 10 people left in the first generation of masters and martial uncles. As for the fifth generation ancestral master, the only one left is martial granduncle. The muscles on his face twitched as he clenched his teeth and said, "If my plan succeeds, then of the 1,000 people of Beyond the Heavens sect, there will not be more than 100 people left. And those people will be the cornerstone of our Beyond the Heavens sect's glory." I don't want trash, I don't want mediocrity. Wu Yunliang slowly paced back and forth. His voice was low and deep, but it was like thunder and lightning striking down on people's souls. Even I, Wu Yunliang, will sacrifice myself when the time comes. The decline of a sect is not a reason for the suppression of various parties. Our Beyond the Heavens sect is an example of this. Wu Yunliang said seriously, but the rise of a sect requires blood and fire. Rise from the ashes. Meng Ran sighed. These outstanding disciples in the eyes of the enemy will naturally bring them countless dangers, but at the same time, countless opportunities. Only by breaking through all of this can they become pillars of the sect. Wu Yunliang said casually, if we can't break through and are completely annihilated, then there will be no Beyond the Heavens sect in this world. I don't want to struggle at death's door, I want to dance alone. Kong Jing Feng nodded deeply and said, eldest martial brother is right. Living an ignoble life is not as good as dying heroically in battle. Meng Ran's eyes suddenly narrowed, eldest martial brother. The decline of our sect is related to the imperial court of Great Zhao. Now that you have such a plan to revive our sect, doesn't that mean, that's right? Wu Yunliang's face was gloomy. In these 10 years when I was not in the sect, I was always an Iron Cloud nation. Even if Great Zhao suppressed us, we might not have to rely on Great Zhao. Great Zhao might not be able to last forever. Meng Ran's heart shook violently. Looking at Kong Jingfeng's calm face, he immediately knew that Kong Jingfeng also knew about this. Eldest martial brother, this is too risky. Meng Ran took a deep breath. His face was full of worry. Wealth comes from danger. Wu Yunliang said emotionlessly, for a sect to rise for the first time, even though it is difficult, it is not impossible. But after their glory they declined, and when they wanted to rise again, it was even more difficult. We must be prepared for the destruction of our sect. Meng Ran sighed deeply and did not say anything else. 3 days ago, I already sent my younger martial brother to secretly take Chen Qian, Shuiyi and Mu Shang to Iron Cloud Nation. First, there was something to do there. Second, it was also the first time for Chen Qian, Shuiyi and Mu Shang to practice in Jianghu. Just think of it as probing the situation. Kong Jingfeng was shocked. Eldest martial brother, how could you let Chen Qian go? I knew you would stop me if you knew. That's why I didn't tell you. Wu Yunliang said casually, 3 days have already passed. Even if you want to go back, you can't do it. Kong Jingfeng anxiously said, I have nothing to say if my younger martial brother took Shuiyi and Mu Shang. But why did you let Chen Qian go? This trip is so dangerous. Plus, all the great sects are already eyeing us. What? That is also her fate. Wu Yunliang said coldly, a few days ago you told me about our sect's female disciples. I was thinking about this matter. Letting Chen Qian go is also to test the horses in Jianghu. Testing the horses in Jianghu. There are so many female disciples in Beyond the Heavens sect. There are many who are not any less beautiful than Chen Qian. But why did you have to send Chen Qian? Kong Jingfeng said angrily, she is your biological daughter. My daughter is my own daughter. Don't tell me that the other female disciples in the sect are all bastards? Do they not have parents to raise them? Are they not the treasures of their parents? Wu Yunliang said heavily, are my Wu Yunliang's daughters so delicate? Kong Jingfeng angrily stomped his feet. He looked at his eldest martial brother with eyes that seemed to be spitting fire, but she is not only your daughter, she is also our niece. You should not let her take this risk. Because she is my daughter, she has a responsibility to the other female disciples in the sect. Wu Yunliang said coldly, my daughter is not the emperor's princess. If I let her hide in the back and let the other female disciples use their lives to pave the way for her, then I would rather not have this daughter. Beyond the Heavens sect is bathing in fire. The fire is slowly burning. To rise again there is no price that cannot be paid. There is no one that cannot be sacrificed. Including me, including you, and of course, including my daughter. After Wu Yunliang finished speaking, he turned around. His back was as straight as a spear. But on the side where the two could not see, the muscles in the corners of his eyes twitched. I hope. Chen can return safely. As a father, sending his own daughter out on such a dangerous mission, how much pressure must his heart bear? Am I really so heartless? But I am not only the father of a daughter, I am also the sect master of 1,000 disciples of Beyond the Heavens sect. When it is time to sacrifice, even if all the disciples are sacrificed, I must do it. But if I can only sacrifice one, then I will sacrifice my daughter. Because I am the sect master of Beyond the Heavens sect. Wu Yunliang gritted his teeth. His cheeks puffed up a little, but he quickly regained his composure. He did not turn around. His voice was a little hoarse as he said, "Youngest, you must teach Chuyang well. That fleeting snow cloud steps. That fleeting snow cloud steps." He paused and pondered for a while. Then he slowly said, "Let him practice well. If he has any tricks, he can learn them himself." You two master and disciple can learn them together. But do not let a third party know. Chapter 27. You only see the benefits but not the pros and cons. Before the sect is cleaned up, there will be too many spies. If this information is leaked, then it will not be a matter of cultivation. I am afraid that our ultimate skill will become a weapon for the enemy to use against us. Wu Yunliang said casually, "Before the dust settles, you must not leak this information. You'd better create another set of footwork for him to confuse." Yes. Meng Chaoran's heart shivered. For Wu Yunliang to say this, it meant that the situation at Beyond the Heavens sect was extremely serious. This was enough to prove that his previous guesses were too optimistic. Confuse? Confuse who? Right now, outsiders do not know. The only ones who know are the disciples of Second Martial Brother. But they still need to confuse. Also, Chuyang's Seven Shades Absolute God Palm, how did he cultivate the Yin Extreme Cold Chi? This matter is really surprising. However, do not let him relax. Wu Yunliang pondered and said slowly, "Wait until he reaches a certain level of cultivation. Then let him enter Seven Shades congregation grounds to increase his cultivation. Even though your little brother is a genius, his cultivation is still too low. For now he will not be of any use. You must be aware of this." Meng Chaoran nodded thoughtfully. "Junior Martial Brother Meng, I originally had a plan. I saw that your disciple Shi Qianshan is very scheming. He is a suitable candidate. But now, it seems that Shi Qianshan is not very useful. But this Chuyang." Wu Yunliang smiled, "I have a great use for him." "A great use?" Meng Chaoran raised his eyebrows. His eyes became sharp. "Even in Iron Cloud we do not have a foundation. The sect needs someone to enter Iron Cloud and act as a spy." Wu Yunliang said seriously, "Chuyang, looking at his performance today, he is without a doubt a suitable candidate. How about we use him as a spy?" Meng Chaoran was stunned. He did not speak for a long time. After a while he said, "This is without a doubt a good opportunity, but it is also very dangerous. In each of these countries, there are as many experts as there are clouds. If we are discovered, it will be a disaster. Chuyang is still young. I hope Senior Martial Brother will carefully consider this matter. If you don't experience wind and rain, how can you become a talent?" Wu Yunliang said, "If you always fight with your back against the river, if you don't take big risks, how can you reap the greatest rewards? Therefore you can rest assured about one thing. The other brothers can be exposed, but Chuyang won't." After Wu Yunliang finished speaking, he called out to Kong Jingfeng and the two of them bid farewell to Meng Chaoran. The long figure slowly disappeared. Meng Chaoran stood in front of the purple bamboo garden in disappointment. The three figures looked somewhat heavy. Meng Chaoran let out a long sigh. His eyes were filled with worry as he muttered, "Eldest Martial Brother, there are some things that cannot be done by the strength of one sect of Beyond the Heavens sect. What could an insignificant Beyond the Heavens sect do between the two countries? Taking a risk out of desperation was an act of helplessness. Fighting with one's back to the river was a taboo. If you are not careful, you will be smashed to pieces. Don't overreach yourself. Beyond the Heavens sect can no longer withstand such a huge upheaval." Meng Chaoran could faintly feel that in this world there was a huge whirlpool. And Beyond the Heavens sect was at the center of this whirlpool. It could be destroyed at any time, and this whirlpool was actually being pushed forward by Beyond the Heavens sect itself. They were even sparing no effort. Within 10,000 miles of lower three heavens, there were three countries. Any further and they would be far away from the scope of this battle. Among these three countries, the Great Zhao Empire lived up to its name. Its territory was the most vast. The power of the country was enormous and its population was also relatively rich. It was dominating one area and was gradually encroaching on the surrounding areas. There was a faint aura of wanting to unify the world. The other two countries were Iron Cloud Nation and Limitless Nation. Even though these two countries' strength could be considered strong, they were far inferior to Great Zhao. The target of Great Zhao's annexation was precisely these two countries. Territorial battles frequently broke out at the borders of the three countries. At this moment, in the capital of Iron Cloud Nation, there were 4 travel-worn people and 4 riders standing in front of Iron Cloud Citadel. 1 old man, 2 young men, and a young woman with a black veil covering her face. All 4 of them had bloodstains on their bodies. Looking at each other, that old man let out a long sigh and said, "Finally we are here. Chen, how are you?" His voice revealed a sense of relief. "I am fine." Wu Qianqian's eyes revealed fatigue as she shook her head. This time there were too many interceptions along the way. Our whereabouts should be kept a secret. This should not have happened. This is somewhat abnormal. This old man was the master of Beyond the Heavens sects treading on Cloud's Peak, Bao Kuanglei. Bao, this was a relatively rare surname. Bao Kuanglei was one of Wu Yunliang's younger brothers. He was a courageous and resourceful person. His actions were steady, he dared to fight, and he handled matters flawlessly. His personality was not in line with his name. No matter what, we are finally here. Wu Qianqian smiled. The 4 people looked at each other. There were some things that needed to be said. There must be a traitor in the sect. Moreover, their status was not low. "Let's enter the city." Bao Kuanglei's expression darkened. Then he raised his spirits and waved his hand. Following the flow of people into the city, they arrived in front of a palace. On a plaque made entirely of silver, there were 3 shining golden words: Thousand Autumns Manor. Thousand Autumns Manor was the crown. Manor of Iron Cloud Nation. The Crown Prince of Iron Cloud Nation lived here. After the announcement, the 4 people entered Thousand Autumns Manor. Under the guidance of a servant, they arrived at the main hall. In the middle of the hall there was a comfortable chair. A handsome young man wearing a soft yellow robe was reclining on it. He held a book in his hand and seemed to be reading hard. His long eyebrows reached his temples. His face was like a jade crown. A purple jade crown tied up his black hair. This young man was somewhat thin. He seemed to be too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind. His hand holding the book was somewhat slender and dry, but it was very stable. His face was filled with a gentle aura. He looked very quiet, very peaceful, and even very weak, making people involuntarily want to protect him. But once he got closer, he would feel that this weak and quiet youth just sitting there made people feel like he was the bright moon in the sky, too high to reach. It was as if the power of life and death under the heavens was in the hands of that pair of thin and dry hands. After the servant announced their arrival, the young man put down the book in his hand and slowly turned his head. Looking at the 4 people, his face revealed a smile as if the spring breeze had thawed. He said gently, "The 4 of you have come a long way. Please sit." Bao Kuanglei cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks for the seat." He led Wu Qianqian and the other 2 to sit down. This young man was the Crown Prince of Iron Cloud Nation, Taibu Tian. At this moment, his eyes swept over the 4 people. Suddenly he smiled and raised his eyebrows. Invisibly, a murderous aura leaked out. He said lightly, "Was this journey not peaceful?" "Not bad. Along the way every step was dangerous." Bao Kuanglei sat calmly. They were people of sects and did not belong to the imperial court. When they saw the Crown Prince, they did not need to greet him. However, Shui Yimeng and Qin Mushang were somewhat nervous. "Ah, it seems that someone is working in the dark." Tai Butian smiled faintly. As he laughed, his eyes slowly narrowed. He stood up with his hands behind his back and said slowly, "But the 4 of you can rest assured. I promise that this kind of thing will not happen in Iron Cloud Nation, not even once." Although he was thin and not very tall, with his hands behind his back and his long eyebrows raised, his eyes indifferently swept around. There was an awe-inspiring aura of a monarch. It was as if the entire heavens and earth were being trampled under his feet. Bao Kuanglei's heart shook. He finally understood the decision of his eldest senior brother. Just by looking at the Crown Prince of Iron Cloud standing there, one could tell that he was definitely a hero. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.